Rao,
Present.
Councilmember Gomes,
Present.
Councilmember Willis,
Present.
Councilmember Gilliard is having technical difficulties at the moment. Councilmember Reeves,
Present and accounted for.
Councilmember Khalid, Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Also present is Mayor Edwards, City Manager, Mr. Donald, and City Attorney, Amelia Walker. We have a forum.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we're gonna use the same procedure we did the last time. If you would call the next item to be discussed, which is, I think, is Destination South Fulton, am I correct?
Yes, sir. The first department to give that presentation is Destination South Fulton.
All right, Mr. Pack, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present the budget for Destination South Fulton for fiscal year 21. It's very interesting that the budget preparation always coincides with my anniversary, and so we just celebrated 2 years with the city of South Fulton. And one of the first presentations that I ever gave to the mayor and council was about developing our toolbox to be able to engage in effective economic development. And so when you look back over the last 2 years and all of the foundational stuff that we've done over that period of time, we really have put a lot of things in place to build this toolbox that we need to be able then to begin economic development in the city of South Fulton. And so we're very excited to move forward now and start doing some more programmatic things as opposed to foundational stuff. And this budget is going to be tailored to some of that. Next slide, please. In this budget, we're going to focus on two main areas as we look forward to moving into the next fiscal year. And those are going to be around professional services and advertising. And so professional services are going to be the things that we need to do to actually implement some of the programs and projects that we'll be doing as it relates to economic development. And some of those will be once the tax allocation district plan is implemented and approved by the council, we'll be moving forward to initiate some of those programs that have been identified in that plan. And so there'll be some technical assistance that will be needed to kind of help move that forward. And so those things are going to be like bid preparations for RFPs, those type things. That's what professional services will help to augment some of those technical assistance that we will need. And then also advertising and continuing to promote the city as a destination to do business. And so we will need to be able to communicate what it is the community's vision is. And so when we attract developers to our community, they will already know based on what we've been promoting and advertising for our community. Next slide, please. The things that we want to continue to do and to grow on our goals for the next fiscal year is obviously supporting small businesses. Now more than ever, our small businesses need us because of the effects that COVID-19 has had. In our department, while we couldn't continue to do our economic development as usual, we were very nimble and really took action when COVID started affecting our businesses. So things like our South Fulton United Fund, where we were infusing cash into our restaurants to kind of help them stay above and help them continue to pay bills and payroll, and not in addition to supporting our frontline workers who were still out every day working on behalf of the citizens, or whether it be continuing our programming through Collab South. While not physically, we've done some online training and workshops, and we want to be able to continue that into the next year as well, just to support those small businesses. We were close, but COVID-19 obviously knocked us off track with our National Main Street program as well. In fact, we were interviewing our Main Street managers. We were scheduled to the week that we closed down City Hall, so we postponed that. And so we weren't able to do that. My PowerPoint went away. Mr. Adams, you were sharing the screen, the PowerPoint.
We're trying to get it back up.
Okay.
Mr. Pike, while they bring that back up, it might be good to note for the council and the public that some of your economic development activities actually started at the end of this year, including because, you know, folks wouldn't see the $250,000 or whatever the allocation ended up being for the small business program and some of the other activities. It's because you ate the cost in this year. So it might be good
Sure.
to kind of
Sure. And that goes back to our supporting small businesses. Again, one of the other initiatives that we did in partnership with Councilwoman Gums was to support the small business sustainability loan program, which was $250,000 that we actually earmarked from the Economic Development Department to help support small businesses. We are in the process of getting ready to roll out that program. It was approved by the council and supported unanimously. And so we're excited, supported by the majority of the council, and we're getting ready to move forward with that program to help small businesses. And so those will be loan programs that will be capped at $15,000, but that will be just infusion of loan programs for our small businesses as we continue to have reduced revenues because of COVID-19. And hopefully, beginning of the year, we'll get back to some normalcy, but we're a long way from that from today until January of 2021. And so we are looking forward to having that program come on board, as well as some of the other programs related to our small businesses. And so Collab South has really been really, you've seen the benefit of having Collab South as we moved a lot of those resources into the small business arena to help them survive during this time period. And so I think that's just a testament to our ability to be able to answer when things kind of aren't unexpected happen to us. And obviously we can't control everything that happens, all the external factors, but what we can control is how we respond to those. And I think that, our team has done a very good job of making sure that we put the resources in place to help our businesses. The Main Street program is another example of supporting small businesses, because the Main Street program is directly related to helping small businesses. And so as you look at bringing that program on board as well, a lot of the things that they will do will be not only just to help revitalize specific commercial nodes in our city, but also, again, providing another layer of support to our small businesses by doing programming such as shop local promotions and special advertising and special promotional campaigns as it relates to creating avenues for people to support small businesses. And so, as I was mentioning earlier, we were scheduled to bring those online in March, but obviously COVID really set us back in a lot of those areas. And so we're looking to bring those back on board in the new fiscal year as we get back to some normalcy. And so then the land acquisition, that's going to be related to our work around the tax allocation district. And so as we bring those up, to create avenues for generating property acquisition, the tax allocation district will allow us to do that. And so we'll be looking at laying out a plan this year as how we begin to acquire property as it relates to initiatives from the tax allocation district. Next. This is a breakdown of our proposed operating budget. I do want to quickly note that some of the operating, well, specifically just the lease payments for Collab South have been allocated to the public works budget, but everything else for the operation of the department and Collab South are in this budget. Again, we had mentioned the professional services earlier in the slide. We clearly took a lot of deductions in the department, which is going to make some of the things that we had wanted to do very challenging. And so, as you can see, those reductions really affect how we're able to do business from an economic development standpoint. But some of these are related to COVID-19 and we look to possibly make some adjustments to these in the mid-year budget, because we'll need that as situations change on the ground related to opening back up and getting back to some normalcy. Again, these are pretty cut and dry. There's not any things that stick out as far as some outlying things. We've been pretty lean, pretty cut down, pretty significant as it relates to the operating budget. And so if we'll go to the next slide. The next slide is our organizational structure. I think the one thing that we should note about the department is that we do obviously provide some admin support for the CVB. Once we do bring on those Main Street programs, both of those organizations will also have an advisory board that is required as part of the national accreditation. We will also provide admin support to those two organizations. In the current fiscal year budget, we are funded for 4 positions. That's going to be the director, the tourism manager, and 2 Main Street managers. That does, however, unfortunately leave us unfunded in 3 key positions, which we were hoping to rev up our programming and Collapse South, but without the personnel to be able to do that, we won't be able to provide the level of service that we had hoped for as it relates to Collapse South. And so with that concludes my presentation for the destination South Fulton, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Mr. Mayor?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Pack,
Yes, sir.
thank you for the presentation. I think you've done a great job in terms of economic development, and I've been reading about some of the awards and presentations that made in your honor. I'm really pleased to hear that. And Collapse South has been a part of the vision I had even when I started as a elected official, and you're seeing that vision goes forward. One thing I do want to ask is I'm concerned about just a little bit about the Main Street managers, because I'm sure Mrs. Councilwoman Willis can chime in on this, especially in the area of Red Oak. Red Oak is moving. I mean, you know as well as I say, you and I and Councilwoman Willis, we've been out on some things, and it's moving. And I think it's getting to the point where we need someone of that nature. And I'll allow some time for Ms. Willis to speak, but I think it needs somebody in that nature to oversee those projects pretty soon. The Red Oak project is a very big and extensive project. And so we really need to move forward in doing that. And I will yield to Ms. Willis.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, both of those positions
Yeah,
are
I
funded.
can't get in the queue.
Huh? I was talking first. I just yield to you. I understand, Ms. Willis. I was just talking first, and I just politely yield to you, but I can wait till I'm finished.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Willis.
yeah, so from my understanding, Mr. Ponder, yes, I'm here. I said, from my understanding, that Mr. Pike said those positions, the Red Oak and Old National District Main Street managers, those positions are funded. Correct, Mr. Pike?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. Those
Hello?
positions are. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, those positions are funded in fiscal year 21 budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so because we do have quite a few projects that are coming in those areas, and I will concur with the mayor. We have been working and meeting with some of the leaders of those projects, and we definitely are going to need, it's going to be instrumental that we do have a Main Street manager in place to help facilitate some of those projects.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me go to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me go to my queue. I'm sorry. Mr. Khalid.
Hey, thank you so much, Mayor.
Right.
Just as a point of information, I know some people are having problems getting in. There's a 10 o'clock meeting and an 11 o'clock meeting in Novus agenda, and I think you have to move it to the 11 o'clock meeting. Who is Mr. Pike on the Old National Main Street Advisory Board? Has that been set up yet?
Neither one of those boards have been set up. Those will be coming forward once we get the Main Street manager in place, and then we'll formally put those organizations together.
I'm in a council meeting.
All right, well, I definitely would like to stay abreast. I don't know if council people are going to be on that board, but I would definitely like to attend the meetings for the Old National Main Street Advisory Board. Thank you.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. Hearing no one else in the queue. Thank you, Ms. Huh?
No, I was going ahead with the next one.
We'll give the next one, bring the next agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Pack.
Yes, sir, thank you.
The next department to present was Fire and Rescue.
Okay, let's go right ahead.
Good morning,
There
Mayor,
we go.
member of City Council. Are you ready, sir? I'm ready.
You ready?
Okay, very good. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to come present our fiscal year 21 budget to the council. Like I said, I'm Sterling Jones, your interim fire chief. And this budget is, it's been challenging, but I think we end up with a good product. So I want to definitely thank my team for coming in, because we've worked really hard in making sure we had a budget that met our needs, as well as being fiscally responsible. So if you go back and start, we are ready to go. Next slide, please. So the first slide you'll see is our current organizational chart. And as you note, there are vacancies identified, and those vacancies will be filled. Some are scheduled to be filled this fiscal year, and some will have to wait until actually the first quarter of the next year, so we can make sure we have the funds in place. And so that's where you see the kind of vacancies there. Currently, we're in the process of filling the EMS coordinator position. That position is crucial to getting our firefighters trained. And so that person, we're going through the process now. And so we should be ready to go in that next phase of that hire very, very soon. And so that's why you see the vacancies located there. The rest of the stuff is kind of just the way it's kind of neat and organized, so you can kind of see exactly the flow of how we're situated and how our divisions are represented. And the fire prevention officers you see as shows vacancies as well. We have to wait and get the proper vehicles in place for them to actually come in. Those positions will be crucial for the business license inspections and the like. So you'll see those positions, and hopefully we get those filled very soon. And I think we're going to start moving in a really, really good direction. Next slide, please. Okay, so you go back and look at our key deliverables. These are some of the initiatives that Chief Broom has started last year, and the initiatives were great. He kind of got them initiated, but now we're going to actually start developing and enhancing them. So as you go down the list of products, you start to see about our cancer reduction programs, and we're moving really good on that program. For those who didn't know, we started, our firefighter physicals have started and been concluded this year. And part of that physical assessment, we did a mental health assessment screening as well. So all those things will kind of help to start to tie into the overall health and wellness of the department. And for those, I think we advertised, we got new SCBAs in. They're very nice and kind of state of the art. And so all those things kind of tie into that exact cancer reduction program. We want to get a Citizens Fire Academy going on. We've kind of looked at a couple models that other departments are using. We want to kind of get a program ready to go in place. Of course, COVID-19 is going to have an effect on exactly how much exposure we have in the public. So once we get the program kind of finalized, we have to see exactly how we'll be able to implement that program based on the current COVID-19 restrictions. The emergency operation plan, we're moving really good on that process. Lieutenant Rose is kind of heading up that with our assistants. And the goal of that program is to kind of make sure that if we have an emergency in South Fulton, as we did a few years ago with the tornado, that we have a plan in place where each division can kind of pull their plan off the process and kind of get it going. So they'll kind of see exactly, in the event of a tornado, what should I do? So those will be kind of things we're going to move. Our next scheduled meeting is Monday. And as we flesh out those programs, we'll make sure that document is available. And of course, there'll be some coordination with the mayor and the council signature to kind of get that process off and going. One thing we're talking about next on the list is branding. There's a lot of things we do in the fire department that are not well known. There's a lot of services and contacts we have. So part of that process is just kind of let people know these are the things we do and these are the things we offer. I mean, we're starting something as good as a car seat technician, where a young couple can bring a car seat in. It could be even for grandparents now. They have a new car seat. They're a lot different than we were coming up. So there's actually, we have certified people. They actually can teach somebody actually how to put a car seat in. So those programs we're going to kind of roll off the shelf. But if people don't know that, they won't see exactly what we're doing. So we're going to do a good job working with our communications, the city's communication section, to let people know that these are the services we're going to offer. And so a lot of stuff is kind of going down the list. It's kind of for your own exposure, smoke detectors, all that stuff. We're going to do a lot of that stuff. We're going to really try to get really active in the community to make sure we have a viable product. The one thing we have to look at these day and age of budget reductions is to make sure the fire department is represented well in the community. I've made sure that I'm definitely one of the faces get out there when Councilman Willis comes out with food drives. If I can make it, I'll be there. And I want to make sure that all of our firefighters are out and viable and letting the city know that we're actually here for them as well. So that's kind of the big initiative that we're going to push forward in these next coming months and years. Next slide, please. So we're starting talking about turnout times. And the turnout times are really crucial when you start looking at ISO. Anytime you start seeing response times, turnout times, staffing numbers, and all that stuff, it factors into ISO because that's what they calculate. When the ISO comes down and do an assessment for us, they look at how fast we get out the station. They look at how many firefighters we have on scene as prescribed time frames. And so that stuff comes into place, and putting the mobile data computers on the apparatus will help us kind of start to measure and see where we're hitting those targets. So that's why you kind of see those numbers up there for your information. And before we talked about the ENTAs, that's one of the big initiatives. Chief Lay and I have been working really hard on that EMS coordinator position, because what we found before is in order to get the firefighters certified to the level which we want them, we've been having to send them down to certain classes, and we've had to pay out of pocket for tuition and books and the like. But there was no really a guarantee in a return. Having the EMS coordinator in place will kind of let us start to control our own. We can do those classes in-house, and that's going to move us into a direction I think we need to go in. And so we're going to try to start to target those numbers, a certain percentage every year, to get our firefighters fully in line with where they should be. And next slide, please. So some of the things you'll start to see is we've been pushing really hard on getting a lot of the department automatic aid agreements. I know council's approved several that have come across your desk. And that's one of the things we start talking about, getting ISO. Currently, we're at 3.3x off the last assessment. But in order to get to that one, there's a lot of factors that have to come in place. And having those automatic aid agreements is crucial to that. If you look at the city, the breadth and size of our city and the square footage and mileage, we're probably 10 partners, contiguous partners, from Douglas to Cobb to City of Atlanta to Fairburn to Chattahoochee Hills and College Park and East Point. All those departments border us. So having those crucial agreements with them increases our chances of getting that ISO 1, which is our target number. And how that comes into play is because a city as large as we are, and with nine stations to cover that area, we need that relationship with our partners to make sure that if Station 2 is out of service into the county, that we still have coverage from City of Atlanta coming west. So that's how those kind of automatic aid agreements move as you start to see. And that ties us in as far as our overall response plan. And hopefully I'm going at a pace that you can kind of understand that. And I'm able to explain that a little bit further if you need. One thing that was a new initiative for us is a youth program, Explorer program. We've checked several models out there. And what we want to do is, and that the suggestion is to kind of give young folks something to do, something to kind of aspire to. A lot of times, if we start to look at our opportunities for hiring, and especially into the community in the city of South Fulton, we don't do enough in the background to kind of nurture that excitement about being a firefighter. For some of us growing up, fire protection is something that's not even a possibility for us because we don't know enough about it. So part of those Explorer programs is to kind of expose the young men and women about exactly this is what the fire department does. This is why this is a great job. I've currently been in some type of fire department uniform for about 35 years now, and this is the best job I think I've ever had. Of course, I wouldn't be doing this long, but it's the only job I'll ever have as far as being able to go get back to the community and being able to reach out to those young people, because I want them to see the fire and intensity and professionalism that our men and women have in the department. We have some of the best firefighters, I think, in the area and in the nation. Our firefighters are enthusiastic, they're energetic, they love doing what they do. That's the reason why they do it. So I want to make sure that infection translate over to some of the young people so they can get that same fire and zeal so they can kind of want to do what we do. That's the purpose of that. And we talked a little bit before about that Citizens Academy. That academy is really good for exposure for us for the department because it allows the citizens to kind of find out exactly what the firefighter does behind the scenes. I think a lot of times they'll see us going up and down the street on emergencies, but they don't see the other stuff that we do. So I think as they start to get exposed, you start to see those lights come on and say, okay, well, I didn't know you guys did that or why you did that. And that's a good way for us to engage with the public, to kind of let them see exactly what we do and why we do it. Next slide, please. So you'll see some of the things we need for apparatus, like the new engine. The mayor and council are definitely appreciative of the fact of our fleet replacement, but we have one engine left that needs to be replaced. And so as you start to go on and kind of review that list, that's the price of the one engine, the air and light truck, the Ford 250 is to tow the hazmat with a fire safety house, SCBA truck refurbished. We looked at, I think on your last budget, if you can review back past, we looked at possibly a new truck. But as I talked to Bobby, our lead mechanic, a fleet manager, he recommended to kind of refurbish the one we have. So some of those initiatives have kind of changed if you look at comparison from last year to this. And we think refurbishing is probably a better option for us. And you see that as well for the SCBA machine as well as the water tender, which will help the fire stations on the south side. As you start to get further and further away from central city of South Fulton, the fire hydrants and the water systems have not cut off to those territories as you start to get further and further out. That way, if you start to get on towards the south side, if you have a fire in those residents, you have to rely on tank water or the access to that water tender. Actually have started having water down to those areas. That's why I'll make sure we include that part in there. So next slide, please. So these are also a few things left off the current URA, the hydraulic equipment, defibrillators, and TICs. Those are things we just wanted to make sure we've been able to identify many things off our list from the last URA, but these are just part of the equipment that got left off that didn't get a chance to get funded for this fiscal year. Next slide, please. And also, in addition to that, Public Works had an assessment done of our current generators. So this list is just a price of those generators. Some are currently listed in your current URA, but they didn't include all of them. So what we did was, if you have a comparison from the URA to this generator, this shows the replacement for all the generators, not just the ones identified in that original URA from Public Works. So this kind of breaks down exactly what that cost will be to replace all the generators. Next, please. So as you go further and further down, those is a list of proposed operating expenses. And that pretty much is the canned stuff we got over from finance. So for review, some of those accounts have been reduced down just to kind of get in line to where we should be fiscally for this next year in anticipation. So that area is, of course, that's something the finance may push out as well. But you start to see exactly our proposed operating expenses. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, total cost went down to 900,000. So that way we can be really responsible in exactly how we're being judicious and frugal in our spending. And so you'll see there's no waste in the fire department as far as how we operate, because we're gonna know we have to live lean for next year for this budget for everyone to kind of get where we want to be. And we want to make sure that we're part of that in our efforts to make sure that we provide the best service to the city, as well as being fiscally responsible. So you go to the next slide, please. So great. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than willing to elaborate and kind of fill in the blanks. But as you see, these are some, I'm really excited about some of the initiatives we're moving forward. And as the fire department works closer and closer with our employee association and our various committees through the department, there may be several other projects and committees and stuff that we spin off and go in that direction. But that's some of the things off the top that we're definitely moving in that direction. But the future is very bright for the fire department for our next fiscal year, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask.
Mr. Mayor,
Once again, thank you, Ms. Jones. We really enjoyed your presentation. Mr. Khalid, you're on.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask Chief Jones, first of all, I'm super excited about that Explorer program. That sounds incredible. And I definitely want to attend the Citizens Academy. I low-key want to be a firefighter when I grow up. Is there anything that you were not able to include in this budget that you feel like is critical in terms of EMS services or safety services for our residents?
Yeah, I think we've been pretty good as far as everything that we wanted in the budget. Our EMS program, with the help of that EMS coordinator, I think that person, currently we have 4 really good candidates for that EMS coordinator. And so once they kind of get in and get an assessment of where our current program is, Chief Lay and I and all of our chief and our command staff will kind of look at, see exactly where we need to be. Because I'm looking at our current target numbers as far as EMS certified personnel in the fire department, and we should be a lot stronger than we are. And so I think when you start to look at that, we're going to blow that section out very well. So there's going to be a lot of stuff we need. If maybe one thing that may not have been included, once we get down, we start to look at that Explorer program. Most of the programs we've seen out there, there's a list of supplies and things that are needed to actually have a viable program. And so that may be something we may have to explore later on. But as you go about it, we're not sure exactly what that's going to look like, because right now our program is in its infancy. So as the incipient stage, if you will. So as we kind of get more and more, there may be a list of more supplies and things we need, for that in the fire university. So there's going to be some things additionally that we may need, but I just don't have that cost yet. And one thing I want to make sure that you understand is we're doing a lot of things with grants this year. Kelly and my administrative staff, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to tap into a lot of grant money. But that's going to help us move a lot of initiatives forward, because we currently have a few out there that haven't been awarded yet. We're hopeful, like a new fire safety house and a lot of hazmat equipment. So a lot of things that we currently have budgeted, that if the grant will satisfy, then we won't have to come back and ask for anything additional, because that money will be allocated from somewhere else, and that'll save our overall budget. So there probably just will be some more stuff, but we'll come back and probably ask during the mid-year, exactly as we get further and further, and we'll make sure that we roll out that plan so council can have know exactly what's needed and what that program is going to look like, as far as the youth program as well as that Explorer program. So we're going to kind of blow both of them out so you can kind of see, because I want you to be engaged with this process as well, so you can kind of see some of the new stuff that we're doing.
Chief Sterling, it
Yes,
might be good to highlight that for Councilmember Khalid and his question, remember the pilot portion of the Youth Explorer program, any funds that need to be augmented would come out of the city manager's budget. But in relation to those capital projects, we couldn't complete all of them in FY21, even if the council fully funded them. But the ones that are in the URA would begin this year. And if there is an opportunity to have additional funding, I think, Chief, you mentioned 4 out of those 8 generators were funded in the URA. And
Yes,
while
sir.
you need all 8, you couldn't complete them all in 1 year. But for the council's knowledge, all 8 are needed, but only 4 to 6 are funded.
That's right.
Thank you so much for that. Was the I know we made like a dozen changes to the URA, but wasn't the fire safety house in the URA?
I believe that it is in there, but we have applied for a grant. So remember with the URA, if you were to get funding outside of that, then you would be able to reallocate those funds. And we want to make sure the council you have so many innovative ideas and things that you want to do on behalf of the citizens. It's our goal to augment with money, use other people's money to deliver before we actually make those expenditures for you guys. And I do believe that it's in the URA. It probably, I don't want to be quoted on that yet. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe I remember that. But I know we saw a couple of grants come up and we applied for them a few months ago.
Awesome, thank you. That house definitely needs repair. We know there are a lot of people at home, a lot of young people at home going to school and cooking lunch by themselves and everything. So I definitely would love to get that back out in operation. But those are my only questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you. Miss Gomes?
Good morning. Chief, you had mentioned about the URA, and I know last year this time I advocated for $650,000 to be there for the fire safety training facility for land acquisition, and I didn't hear you mention anything in regards to that in this budget. Can you give me an update on that?
Yes, ma'am. We did set aside up to $650,000 was set aside for that. But currently right now, we haven't moved forward in that initiative because we're trying to find out exactly from land acquisition. I'm working with parks in some of our locations to find out a suitable location within that area to kind of have that as well. So that's one of the biggest things. It's kind of looking at the money's definitely still in the URA, but we just kind of want to make sure that we have to find out about the land acquisition and everything else with that. And so I'm just moving cautiously because the money is there, but understanding that that URA is for the next 10 years moving. I don't want to move too fast and all of a sudden something comes up and we have a better site location.
So understanding that, were you able to review the feasibility study that was done prior to your arrival regarding the locations and things of that nature?
I don't know if I've seen that or not, ma'am. I'll make a note of it and I'll circle back around and I'll interface with you because I can't recall those details off the top of my head.
Okay.
Councilmember Gomes, as a quick reminder, Mr. Valenzuela from Public Works is actually managing the project timeline for those capital projects. I know that Chief Jones is going to be one of the implementers, but I did want to highlight that I think Public Works is next. And so some of those questions about those allocations for those real estate related projects, they're going to be managed through Public Works.
I just don't want the money to get lost or the initiative of we desperately need some type of fire safety station in District 2.
Yes,
and I'm not trying to politicize it or anything. I'm just saying there is a need.
Yeah, and I think the Georgia Tech study backs that up. And so you're right on target with that. I just wanted to highlight that, while the beneficiary is fire, the actual project manager at this stage is Public Works. But now you're right on target. Georgia Tech study and all of those other things have highlighted the need. And so those monies remain appropriated for that purpose with no change.
Okay, thank you.
Very well said. Yeah, thank you. And we'll definitely, I'll get.
I have a question.
Yes.
Mayor, I have a question. I'm having some technical difficulties.
Go right ahead, Ms. Gilliard.
I wanted to ask the chief about the fire station on Stonewall Tell, the one that you told me that needs to be demolished. There's only like a little over $100,000 budgeted in the URA for it. So I'm wondering what you're going to be able to do with that, given that it's in such bad condition as you shared with me.
Well, I guess I want to make sure that I preface that. We had the folks from Jacobs came in and actually did an assessment of that facility. And I think they shared that information with you. I think from my vantage point, and I just want to make sure that I'm speaking for me, we look and we start talking about the station, the age of the station, and the use of the station. And that's why I'm looking at a station that was built, I believe, in 1968. If we can make some suggestions, because you have to look at the expense of a new fire station in that area. You start to look at it, can be very, very pricey as you start to look at that. So I want to make sure that I'm careful exactly how I say that. And I don't want to give the impression that a bulldozer should come in and tearing down the station, but also want to make sure that the moves that we make, if we can do something proper with those recommendations from Jacobs, that we go in that direction and we still get the functionality we can from the station without necessarily saying, okay, I want to just tear it down.
Yeah, I didn't get any recommendations from Jacobs. I spoke with you about it because
Yes,
I actually did not know that it was in that bad of a condition until we spoke. So anyway, I understand. That's
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I
Okay,
didn't
good.
try to break that up well enough for you.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard?
Fine.
All right. Couple of things I'd like to ask. Chief Jones, I want to go back to this ISO.
Yes, sir.
Ever since Chief Few was here, we've been in the mode of lowering the ISO. And one of the things that he said that would help us back then was the fact that we would get these automatic aids.
Yes, sir.
And I'm hearing now the same thing about automatic aids. What has been the holdup to allow us to breach that gap?
Well, Mr. Mayor, the ISO is done by several parts. Fire department is just one portion of ISO. ISO looks at your current fire capabilities. They look at staffing. They look at response times. But then they also look at water supply and they look at communications. The biggest thing for us as far as the automatic aid is when you come in and you have a change in administrations, because the agreement is with the city and the elected council, but also the automatic aid is to make sure that that other partner and your contiguous partner wants to enter that agreement. So we have a lot of automatic agreements already that you secured, but sometimes it just needs to be refreshed. Because if you look at the documents that the council has just signed, one of the signatories is the fire chief. And so the one for Chattahoochee Hills, if you will, that agreement's between Chief Brett and I, because once the council and the elected bodies decide that they want to sign up and get that agreement going, it's up to the fire department. So go ahead and work on one of the components for ISO is we have to train every quarter with your contiguous partners. Now, working with Chattahoochee Hills, that may be easier, but when you start to look at some of the other departments, it takes a little more logistics and scheduling to get us together and say, okay, I need to train with College Park and East Point. And we're currently starting to get those agreements in. That's why you see the Chattahoochee Hills and College Park and I see, East Point just got their new fire chief in place. So that's different than the previous Chief Broom was gone. And now Chief Corey is down at East Point. So he and I have to interface and get that agreement kind of refreshed. We'll get with new signatures. So I can definitely say that that's high on my initiative to get that thing done. And I would imagine within several months, you'll start to see more and more come across your desk for your signature and the council's signature. So that's definitely something we'll get done.
Mayor, I think it's important to note when Chief Few was here, you actually had none of those. Since Chief Sterling has been here and a little before he started, I think you've approved 2 to 3 of them, and there are 6 in the hopper. And so remember, you got our legal team, their legal team, the chief and the city managers. All of those folks have to touch on those. And to be fair, our challenges with Atlanta and our other contiguous partners. So you've got 6 in the hopper that you'll have to approve over the next couple of months. But our ISO was actually going to raise to 4 because FIB is not included. But the work of our staff has actually kept us at a 3, which is technically a reduction. Because once you lost FIB as a part of your service area, you were supposed to go up 1 level. So you've already gone down once. You got to add some context to that to know what fully happened. Just wanted to make sure that I identify that.
Mr. Manager, I don't doubt that. Technically going down, our goal is, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Jones, our goal is to have a ISO of 1. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And so all I'm asking is, a lot of time has expired as we moving positively with whatever we have to do to get to that goal. And I mean, I know they're changing police chiefs and agreements are changing, but I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that our goal is one. All right.
Mayor, you should note the timeline for that goal, though. To move to a 3-2-1 is a pretty monumental task, and so that will likely not happen until around 2023 to go from a 3 all the way down to a 1.
I do understand. I really do. I'm not trying to get down on anybody. I'm just saying that I want to work systematically toward that goal, and I'm hearing some of the same things I've heard over the years. And we just need to get it together and move forward. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
if I could inject, I want you to understand that the automatic grievance is just one part of.
I understand that.
Yeah, so we have to also look at training. We have to look at several things, components within the department to make sure, because each level of supervision has a certain training category they have to hit. So the agreements, I don't want you to think that once we get the agreements that automatically we're going to go to the 1.
No, I understand perfectly.
Yes.
I understand perfectly.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about is, and Ms. Gilliard talked about a fire station that needs to be torn down and things of that nature. I have been concerned about whose responsibility, once we do all of this stuff, redo this fire station, put in new beds, give you new trucks. I'm a little bit concerned about who in the rank is charged with the responsibility of inspecting not only trucks and fire stations to make sure that the stuff that we're putting in is maintained and in order.
I mean, you speaking of facility maintenance or vehicle maintenance? Is that what you're asking?
What I'm asking is, I feel that somewhere down the line, if you tear down Ms. Gilliard's fire station and build another one, for example, right?
Yes, sir.
Is there a major, lieutenant, or somebody who's supposed to inspect those stations to make sure that they continue to be in order? Because I believe, Chief, that those stations and those furniture stuff didn't get that way by themselves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think there was some abuse, and that is taxpayers' money, and we should treat it that way. So I'm asking, who in your ranks, is it a major supposed to go by and make an inspection and see that everything is clean and in order? Who's supposed to do that?
Well, Mr. Mayor, of course you look at me being a department, the department head, the responsibility falls on me. Now, Chief Lay, since he's been here, Chief Lay has been really good in putting those inspection processes in place. So he has a program that we've started that once the battalion chiefs will get in and inspect, and the station captains will get in and inspect, we'll make sure that the facilities will be something exactly to address your concerns as well. So we'll make sure, and as far as we have a logistics captain, Captain Gilliard, that's kind of in charge of our facilities. So we'll make sure that those checks and balances are in place. And I'll make sure that I'm on as well. And I'll get like weekly reports and monthly reports, exactly how many work orders we have open to make sure that our facilities are and vehicles are being maintained well. So we're having a clear process in place. Yeah.
Because I've gone in facilities, and Ms. Gilliard can agree with me on this. Over in our fire station where we live, I've gone over there and we've had reclining chairs just torn to pieces.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and so I just question as to how it got that way. A couple more things and I'm finished. One is, I want you to look at the U.S. Conference of Mayors and their fire training program.
Okay.
Because I took that last year at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And as you're looking at things, take a look at that one. It's called 101 Fire. Okay. All right. Yes, the other thing I want to talk to you about is occupancy requirements.
Yes, sir.
As I've gone and rode around with police, especially at night, especially on Old National, I'm deeply concerned about whether we are enforcing the occupancy requirements. Because some of those places over there that I've seen have been to me. I have not seen publicly shown what the occupancy is, which is another problem.
As far as
But
the
I have
posting,
not, huh?
you talking about the occupancy, the limit posting in the facility?
Absolutely haven't seen that. I'm
Yes,
sure I haven't seen none of them. I've been in there. I mean, they probably have it in the drawer somewhere. But anyway, I'm concerned about the occupancy codes in those places that I've been in on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, I think you don't have people. I mean, sometimes you may want to just drop in and
Yes,
see
sir.
that everybody is adhering to the occupancy code.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Mayor, I guess that's one of the things we start looking at community risk reduction section. As we start to blow that section out, we'll start doing a lot of those spot checks. Because one of the biggest things once they get the business license, and by law, they're supposed to post the occupancy limit as soon as you walk in the door. That's why as soon as you see it's right over the cash register, that lets you know that this facility can house 600 people or 100 or whatever that number is. And it's based on the size of the facility, the number of exit signs, and it's a lot of things that factor into how many people can be in that facility. And so we'll make sure that we get out there. Those will be something that's going to be on our radar. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not telling you what I heard.
Understood.
I'm telling you what I saw.
Yeah. We'll
All
definitely
right.
make that as part of as we blow CRR out. That'll be something within our radar because I've heard that. Yeah, I understand that.
All right. The chair listed Ms. Willis, and we'll close out. Ms. Willis, go right ahead.
Yes, I have a question about the Fire Station 1.
Yes, ma'am.
As we talked about tearing down fire stations, Fire Station 1 was the oldest and worst fire station in the fleet we had. And at one point, the only thing that was recommended for that fire station was to send a wrecking ball through it. We infused money into it. We renovated it. And we got it up to standard. But the only thing that was not repaired in that fire station was the restroom. And I am concerned that that restroom was not remodeled. So is that taken or accounted for in this budget?
I believe, if I'm correct, that station the bathroom was left and it was a component of the kitchen. And I believe that's in the ERA, if I'm not mistaken. And so let me see if I can pull that up. And so I believe that that's accurate, that's actually part of the ERA. And
okay.
So what we do is, I don't want to give you something that I'm incorrect, but I'll definitely look at it and I'll make a note and I'll make sure I circle back around and have a conversation about the remaining items.
Okay, because Mr. Dono is saying that he does not believe those funds are there. We need to check. If those funds are not there, we need to figure out how we can get some funding to get that restroom repaired, because it makes no sense that we infuse all that money in that fire station and we have not, and I understand we ran out of money and we did put 300,000 in there, probably more, but it makes no sense that we have that restroom looking the way that it does. And so we need to make sure that we do whatever it takes to get that taken care of this fiscal year.
Yes, ma'am. And I believe some of those repairs are actually going to be followed within Mr. Venezuela's responsibility. So we'll make sure that I'll stay connected with them and make sure that stuff is done. But we'll definitely look into it.
And that restroom is more important than the island. I mean, I think the island is important because we need to make out, but that restroom is really ridiculous.
Yeah, I would just mention some of the things I think that was remaining that didn't get completed off that last remodel, because I knew those things were on the list. But I think even there's some other things I identified, but we'll definitely look into it, and I'll be able to provide some input and feedback to you very soon.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Willis, and thank you, Chief Jones. Madam Clerk, will you call the next item, please?
Thank you.
The next department to present will be Public Works.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
I'm very proud and honored to serve the city of South Fulton as your Public Works Director, going into my second year from the formation of Public Works of November 2018. Since then, I believe we made lots of progress considering the situation where we are on transportation and facilities. Next slide, please. Public Works. In essence, just we handle engineering. Within engineering, we have TS Plus projects, capital projects, and LMA. Field operations and maintenance and traffic operations is handled by our is our Jacobs contractor, as well as sanitation. General services and fleet falls under public works and is one of our sections. Next slide, please. The current personnel that we have on public works. Under transportation, we have a public works director. We just recently hired our deputy director, Mr. Anu, and we have a public works program manager and an administrative coordinator. For general services, we have one maintenance manager and 3 service technicians. And for fleet, we have one maintenance manager and 3 fleet mechanics. Next slide, please. Our accomplishments on 2020. Early last year, we made commitments on what we were going to deliver for the city of South Fulton. We have delivered 42 school flushers, brand new, up to date, with the best technology in the metro area. We increased our residential solid waste compliance to 88%. Last year we were at 70%, we are at 88%. We have completed the 2019 projects of about $1.8 million with LMIC funds provided from Georgia DOT and the match of the city of South Fulton. We obtained the LAP certification for the city of South Fulton. With that, we are now in a position to start contracting directly with ARC and Georgia DOT on federal funded projects, as well as being able to manage those federal funded projects. We finalized on all the contracts with contracted piggyback agreements that we inherited from Fulton County. That was a major task that we inherited. Lots of consultants have to revise their status, quotes, and others, and change of procedures, and others that had increased their costs when we left the project in 2018 in Fulton County. To date, we are now with piggyback contracts with all our projects. We have established a citywide maintenance and improvement plan focused on preventive maintenance on existing buildings and infrastructure for URA. We also have completed the 2019, we're completing the 2019 T-Splash resurfacing projects at a cost of $6.2 million. The completion of the South Fulton Comprehensive Transportation Plan, which is our base of projects going forward if we want to apply for subsequent projects, might be sidewalks, intersection improvements, road widenings, and others. It is coming to you for your internal approval, I believe in September or November of this year, and further coming out with the adoption of the plan by all the cities in early 2021. Next slide, please. The budget. The proposed budget for 2021, at glance, Public Works has $11,844,746. Out of that, General Services has $4,251,613, and Public Works has $7,593,151. You have purchase contract services for each of those groups, as well as personnel and supplies, which are the main components of each of those budgets that you see on the screen. Next slide, please. Operations, Public Works, the $11 million, $844, $7.5 million for transportation. How did we break that up? The professional services for Jacobs under the base contract, $5.6 million, and the maintenance funding of $868,000. The maintenance funding, it is to provide the services as you can see line by line on different items that we do throughout the year. Those $868,000 appears to be a big number, but sometimes due to the nature of this business, we find sinkholes that fail, bridges that fail, accidents that occur, signals that are down, signs that are down constantly, and the increase of illegal dumping and others, which makes it very hard for us to maintain the $868,000 for maintenance purposes. But we're committed to do the best that we can to squeeze what we have. With regards to general services, $4,251,000. Professional services is $698,000 for 27. You have cleaning supplies and custodial issues for $68,000. The building and rental, $268. I'm sorry, building repair and maintenance for all the facilities. That includes parks, fire stations, and other facilities that we own. It's about $268,000. The rental land of buildings, $680,000. The general liability, $850,000. Utility bills, $45,000. Gas and fuel, which we're monitoring at $155,000. That causes throughout the city of South Fulton for fire, police, CDRA, and other divisions that use fuel. And postage for $28,000. Uniforms, $13,000. And we have put the amnesty day of $150,000 for two events, one in the spring, another one on the fall. Next slide, please. Budget highlights. Transportation. At a glance, in a better picture, professional services, $6.4 million. Streetlights, $601,000. The streetlights, it is the consumption that we're currently paying of about 10,000 plus lights throughout the city of South Fulton. Repairs and maintenance, $850,000. Vehicle maintenance and repairs, $671,000. Repair and maintenance, $268,000. General service, professional services, $698,000. Street light consumption, and so on. And just want to make sure that under general services, when you see the professional services of $698,000, that includes the number of COVID-19 for $400,000 that we have offset for next year, and the repair and maintenance of $268,000. So the professional services total is $698,000 for 27. The vehicle maintenance, yes, sir.
Because we're on the record, you want to be clear about something, and the guidance that our grants person gave us, we're calling that COVID-19 out as $400,000, but technically we do not have any COVID funds budgeted, because if you have COVID funds budgeted, you cannot retrieve them. So that 400,000 can, air quotes, can be used for COVID, but it is allowing us to pay any additional costs that are unforeseen, but it is not a specific line item for COVID. You want to make sure to have that on the record, because again, if you specifically allocate funds for COVID, you cannot receive reimbursement. So let's make sure we provide that clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Donald. That's true.
Understood. And the vehicle maintenance and repairs, $671,329. The cost is the actual cost of what we experienced in 2019 and 2020, and the general liability of $850,000. Next slide, please. The fiscal year 2021 TS Plus projects. And the tier 1 and 2 for year 2021, we have a projection of $24,962,703. Within those, the projects are broken down in different brackets. We have bridges, operations and safety improvements, pedestrian bike improvements, and others that adds out to the $24,962,000. On the pie chart, you can see how is the budget broken down into those subcategories. So what we're planning to do is, first of all, to ensure that how much of those funding are we going to be able to collect by March of 2022. Just keep in mind that the way how collections are on TIS Plus, it starts on April of perhaps to give you an example. For budget of 2019, the collection started in April 2019 and ended in March 2020. Then upon collecting those funds, we're able to move on execution of that year program for budget. For 2021, collections will start on April 2021 and end on March 2022. Our hope is that we'll get as close at what it was projected. And looking at the budget, we will make proper adjustments accordingly. Next slide, please. Can you back out? I think we move one of the slides down. Okay. Yeah, next slide, please. We're missing the header. This spreadsheet provides us the federal funded projects to date. What projects do we have? We have Butner Stonewall Tail, Old National Highway, New Hope Road, and Cochran Road over Camp Creek. Each project has on the second column and the fiscal year where the funding is programmed for. It goes from 2020 to 2023. Those are, on the next column, we have the estimated costs, which are projections. And then our goal is to ensure that we receive or we apply or we do everything we can to obtain at least 80% of the projections of each of those phases. Typically, the state and the federal government only provides funding for construction issues. And then the rest, it goes into the municipalities to bear the cost. But we're gonna do everything that we can to get and maximize the 80%. Then the 20% match, it is the difference on the receivable on federal funds and the actual estimated cost. So how we're going to execute 2021, we're going to have to borrow the 80% needed funds from general funds, since those funds are going to be reimbursable. In order to advance from one phase to another phase, we will borrow that 80%. We'll start doing the projects and we'll start requesting reimbursements and put it back on into general funds. Under the 20% match for 2021, we're gonna do everything that we can to offset the cost with what we have on hand, as well as using some of TIS Plus funds that we have that can help to offset any needs that we might have. And then you can see on the how much funding and reimbursements we actually receive, how much funding remaining it is per project. Out of these projects, the key projects that we're moving forward is T242 Butner Road Stonewall Tail. We have bid that project out. We have a lowest bidder. We're about to present to you, but right now we're working with Georgia DOT for them to provide us the notice to proceed and provide us a project frame agreement committing to the funds that we have listed right there. While we don't receive from Georgia DOT that notice to proceed and project frame agreement, we will not be able to advance the construction. But it is our goal, and we're working with them constantly to get the updates and ensure that the dual roundabout, that will be the first dual roundabout in Georgia, that we can let this construction. The Old National Highway, we got the piggyback agreements. We're working with the consultants. We're making sure that we can accomplish those fiscal years so we can be online for 2022. And going for 2022, we will be presenting the needs of funding for 2022. Right now, I think we can offset with what we have for 2021. New Hope Road sidewalks, it's in the same boat. Some of the URF funds that we receive, we have used some of those URF funds to pay or to fund the piggyback agreements so that design can restart with the consultants. So that's the same case for all national highway. We had to pay the remaining engineering costs, and we have used URA funds to resume design activities. Cochran Road over Camp Creek, it's a project that's only funded on engineering. It's a project that can wait and follow federal guidelines. This process takes forever. It's a very tedious project. It's a long project. It takes an average from inception to completion about 6 years. So right now we only have funding for engineering. The rest is we don't have anything, but we have commitments, verbal commitments from ARC and Georgia DOT to move those projects to a funding stage. We have other bridges that have federal funded, but unfortunately, those bridges, the rating of the bridges had lowered because those are older bridges. So since that point of view, we cannot continue waiting on federal funds, or we'll have to shut roads for about 5-6 years. So we have advised to move into local funds and collect other type of funding to move forward with 2 additional bridges that you will see in the next slide. Next slide, please. The need for 2021, we have listed right there what we funded. On the right column, you can see what we funded when using URA funds that we received earlier, and how we're going to offset the minimum dollar amounts that we have on that aid, on that side. This is to be transparent on how we're doing business, how we're moving your projects along, and what will be coming up down the road. Next slide, please. The local funds. How we're going to do those 2 bridges, the Mooney Road over Deep Creek. In the past, the way how estimate was done, they only had engineering right away and construction. They never looked at right away services because Fulton County had a right away department that was handling the administration. Then on top, Fulton County had their own consultants that were providing the services for rights of way. And then Fulton County utilized as well consultants to do construction inspections, project management, and so on. So each of those projects now have engineering, right away services, utilities, construction, and construction inspections. So you can see that the budget is estimated per project. So the contractor obligated is what we already move into those projects and how we can execute. Our main concern is obviously those 2 bridges where the rating is low. We're going to do everything that we can to move the Mooney Road over Deep Creek, but at this point we only have the design portion on this project, and we're going to be in need to move on 2022 utilities, construction, and construction inspections. So at this point, we haven't listed right there, but we're already forecasting what's going to need. Cochran Road over Deep Creek, that road is closed. It is our first priority, and the way how we obligate it is by utilizing some of the URA funds, that's the capital funds that we had, then providing some of the services for rights of acquisition by using LMIC funds that you'll see in the next slide, as well as the subsequent phases, so we can match for the needs that we have. As soon as those contracts are out with the consultants, it is our intention to revisit those single bridges and look at the scope of services that we have. Because budget constraints, we will not have to do the entire project as it was initially forecasted. We will have to reduce the scope to just do the bridges and the proper road approaches instead of extending the project with sidewalks and realigning some of the roads. Federal Road upgrade phase 2. We have done the piggyback agreement, contracted, move on from URA funds, and forecasted already what we can do on URA funds in this year. And if we want to move this project for construction letting, the estimated costs are listed right there. And if it's the desire of the city to let this project that's in need, we have 2 bridges. It is an intersection improvement on Fairmont Road and Cascade Road. Sidewalks from extending from Cascade Road back to the Walmart location. And the estimated cost needs for 2021, it is almost at $3 million.
Oh, God.
Next slide, please. LMIG funds. So how do we propose? We were very grateful when, as Mr. Donald provided to you in the past, different updates as Georgia DOT graciously provided additional funding to us. So we used some of 2020 funds, the additional LMIG 20 funds, the upcoming 2021 funds, and of course, counting with our match. And we're upsetting on that manner so we can let the Dimuni Road over Deep Creek at least to engineering and begin the rights of acquisition, and being able to fully fund it, the Cochran Road over Deep Creek, where it is, where the project is, where the road is closed due to the rating on the bridge. So on 2021, unfortunately, the funding that we were hoping from Georgia DOT, which is the yearly grant that is provided to all the cities, it has diminished from what we expected from last year. So this year we got under $1.1 million. We typically get about almost $1.25 million to $1.3 million. So there's a decrease on funding from their end, and I'm sure it was across the Georgia. So we had to also make some reductions on that, and we'll have to look into other options and tap more from TS Plus funds, from PMCM TS Plus funds, and TS Plus unforeseen conditions to make sure we can fund this bridge that's highly important. But can you narrow down a little bit, because I got a summary of 2020, additional 2020, and the 2021. Okay.
No, that's all I got on the screen.
Okay. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Switching gears, going to facilities. What we've done. Under URA, it was forecasted $16 million and change. Out of those, 10,669 was allocated for facilities, and about $5.67 million allocated for transportation and the police department. So a net of $10.6 million just for facilities and in diverse groups throughout the 13 URAs. So what we've done, we engaged a consultant to give us a thorough analysis and inspections and recommendations on each of the facilities. So we went on phase one. What are the facility needs? It was done to identify the current use, the project feature of the facility, the inventory. Then in phase two, the current facility is suitable. At those facilities, what are the conditions of those facilities? An assessed condition, and an inventory of existing facilities. Then we went to phase three. What is the best plan for City of South Fulton? So for us was to identify alternatives, repair, demolish, rebuild, and so on. And the phase four, that's where we are. How do we get it there? How do we get it done? The project implementation phase and so on. So we are to meet with parks, we are to meet with fire, and provide them the detailed information how we can accomplish this stuff. Currently, the immediate needs deficiency for all facilities is about $18 million. So we want to do some kind of hybrid approach on phase 1 and phase 2 deficiency, side paving and PMCM. But we want to do what is the best for each of those facilities. We also engage with an energy saving company that we're working with now on how we can do the savings on utilities. So we have bigger facilities, the Walker Mall, Sandtown, Southwest Annex Center, the Tennis Court Center, and so on. So we're working with them to see what will be the savings on energy. It appears that by doing some kind of further assessments on all those utilities that we have, we might be able to cut the current needs and reinvest better for all the facilities that we have. Absolutely, this is going to take us a bit more time to get to where we need to go on each facility. And we want to be transparent. We want to discuss with department heads and then subsequently go back with you and explain every detail on how we can proceed on the projects. Earlier, before this presentation, Mr. Donald has submitted to the council a narrative on each of the projects and the status and conditions on how we arrived to the $18 million. Those are the exact needs right now. You have also in the 5 years, if you don't do anything, and then if you don't do 5 years plus, and about a total of facility deficiencies of about $54 million. Next slide, please. Funding needs. I heard from the community, I heard from you, I heard from Jacobs, and how can we accomplish this? And I just want to be transparent with you on what the current needs are. We have approximately 55 bridges. Georgia DOT does their annual report on each structure. Then they are provided back to the cities, and each municipality is responsible for reporting the repairs needed in a bi-yearly report. When the last time that was done was in Fulton County, and we spent about $1.3 million. I think that $1.5 million is I would say it's a very estimated cost to get those bridges up to date, at least to expand the sufficiency rating on the bridges, that we should keep it at least anything above 50. Anything that a bridge is below 20 in the sufficiency rating, you're going into different issues on the bridges. Detention ponds. We have 33 detention ponds. We have discussed with different vendors, different contractors, and I think we can do citywide at the cost of $150,000. And the intention will be, you do it once, you do a good investment up front, and afterwards, you start going in the maintenance, in the bi-yearly maintenance, to avoid the heavy cost up front. We also have heard from you, Old National Highway and Campbellton Road. We have about 12 miles that we're constantly getting calls and so on. The state maintains those roads, state roads, at 6 weeks iterations. We have not touched state routes, but now and then we've done a few things on Old National Highway as well on Campbellton Road. But if we want to be in the cycle of maintaining at 4 weeks and us taking over those two roads, our maintenance for those specific roads and that mileage will be approximately $125,000. Tree removal. Don't have, we constantly get trees about to fall at different locations of the city of South Fulton. And we do what we can with the maintenance funds that we have under Jacobs. But if we really want to make a difference, we need to have it at least $150,000 so we can cut those trees back farther out of the right of way. We also receive and discuss with the city of Fairmont. There are two main roads that have failed. It's Galette Road and Oakley Road. City of Fairmont offers to us to enter into an IGA, and then us taking part of the percentage of those roads within the City of South Fulton, and them doing the rest. A similar situation of what we've done with other roads with Union City and Hunter Road, to give you an example. So the $1 million is only our share. And I have visited those two roads. I met with City of Fairmont, and yes, those two roads are in need for repairs, and some of them are in need for reclamation. Reclamation is when the road cannot sustain anymore for regular maintenance. You have to tear apart the top layers and so on, and start rebuilding those roads. Street sweeping. It's about $124,000 that under Jacob's contract we have twice a year. One in after the fall, the leaves fall, and one in the summer. We have almost a large number of miles that we have to maintain. However, I have for you a proposal, different options, where we can do it in a 12 monthly, we can do it bi-yearly, or we can do it quarterly. So at this point, I'm providing to you if we do monthly. If we can take one of the options, perhaps to do quarterly, that will be at $54,000. But I was able to provide you different alternatives. Dirt roads. We have identified the school routes that are in much need. We have discussed with other vendors outside Georgia on how we can do this better to cut the dust on those dirt roads. Unfortunately, the cost is high. But if we want to avoid the issues, I don't think we can do under less than $60,000 on 2 years, twice a year that we do now. But if we add on a quarterly basis, that we will need $60,000 more. Right now, we pay about $30,000 on each application for those 9 miles. Under garbage can collections, maintenance, it's almost a new initiative that we started late last year, I believe. And we have a number of trash cans that we maintain on a 4 weeks basis when Jacobs is maintaining the rights way, or when we have on calls on cyclic fix. Unfortunately, not everybody use those cans only to drop a banana leaf or drop a paper or drop a small bag of a fast food store. They're leaving other bigger issues. They're leaving bags. They're leaving stuff that should not fit into those trash cans. So what it does to us is that we are in need to maintain more often, instead of once a month, or instead in a quarterly, in a cyclic fix call. This will allow us to do in a weekly basis at least, but the funds will be needed to get that up to standards that we would like to see at the City of South Fulton. We also have Cascade Road medians and Cascade Palmetto Roundabout. Those are landscape issues that, in order to maintain what you want, is first you got to design, then you got to implement, and then you have to maintain. So it's a cycle. If you want to make a difference, let's do a design. You all like it. Let's implement it, and then let's maintain what we design. But it will cost us approximately $150,000. Asphalt patch and overlays. In order to avoid our roads and extend the paving condition index of the roads, we don't know when there's a sinkhole. We don't know when bigger holes appears, when there are bigger patches needs to be done. Jacob's contract is up to 50 square feet. We have a diverse corridors issues on needs for overlays. So we will need a small budget to get for those repairs. Right now, we contracted with other specific vendors, which are very reasonable, that will allow us to do this stuff. In the next couple of weeks, you'll see a vendor doing some deep air repairs, in addition of what Jacobs does, and in addition of what Hughes Plus does. But we haven't complete all the under Hughes Plus. We haven't put every single corridor that we have in City of South Fulton. We only put the main corridors that needed, and we based on 2016 inspections and estimated cost. Now we are in 2021, so things have changed. On gravel road paving, we heard a lot on Hall Road. Personally, I have worked with our standby consultants. We're forecasting to provide a design of Hall Road, but it's not just the design. We want to ensure that we provide the proper turning movement from Ridge Road into Hall Road, then the proper connectivity on the existing paved road on Hall Road to the new paved road. We got to ensure that the culvert approaches on those creeks that crosses Hall Road are properly. We got to ensure that the current conditions at the schools are right there. There are some areas with gutter, some areas without gutter. So I have requested and hope to get estimated costs and better ideas on a road that will give us an open ditch, or we can have it a road with curb and gutter, and then we can do perhaps, because of budget constraints, only the construction, and at a subsequent year, we'll be ready with a design to do just sidewalk implementation. So it is a lot of stuff that we're handling, sometimes lack of time to release everything that we want to provide to you. Lastly, I believe, is there a way that you can, the street lights, I think we got the street lights right there on the bottom of the screen. Below Gravel Road, can we?
I think he's trying to get you to scroll up to show the bottom.
I can't unless I come out and size it back.
My last line under this is streetlights. As you know, you awarded a master plan of streetlighting for this year. So the master plan will last for a year. So you will have a plan of action going forward sometime next year. That contract is for 12 months. It will be a full inventory, recommendations, new standards, and perhaps ordinance approaches on how we can handle street lighting. However, I'm putting right there about $50,000 that will allow us, on those calls that you receive, on the requests that are made to me, I need 5 lights here, 6 lights here, 10 lights here. So that cost will be to fund new requests from October going through the next year budget. Next slide, please. I also wanted to share with you what are the state funding needs. We have about 45.1 miles. The state maintains the roads every 6 months. Every 6 weeks. If we want to take over and do every 4 weeks, there's a cost for this. You will need additional equipment, additional personnel, and so on. And if we want to take over those and do it in a 4-week cycle, you have estimated at $500,000. With this list of inventory that you have, I have not considered South Fulton Parkway, because it's a parkway where liability is much higher, traffic control is much higher, and it goes also to different municipalities. And us putting our hands with that,
Damn it.
will be taken over from Georgia DOT
You
main,
move that damn bag.
as well as Camp Creek Parkway.
Ms. Gilliard,
Next
Ms.
slide,
Gilliard,
please.
make sure you mute yourself.
Yeah, because you're cussing.
Ms. Gilliard, do you hear me? Okay, go right ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Our priorities and goals for 2021. Absolutely, we want to complete the 2020 LMIC projects. We want to complete the construction of Cascade Culvert that's closed, the right-of-way acquisition for those two bridges. Projects that we can let in 2020 on Flat Shoals Road, we have about 14 signals that are the older signals in the city of South Fulton. We have funding that to this place. We're currently working on what will be the best option to move with that. Complete the street light master plan, provide and start implementing the facility improvement based on facility condition assessment. Implement the software based on a work order system that the city doesn't have it, which we must have it. Can you please move to the next slide? I was talking about myself. There you go. I'm sorry about that. That software is being contracted now, and it will take us 6 to 9 months. So going down the road, that will cut lots of the emails, lots of the status of projects. Where are the funding? Where are we spending? What personnel do we need? And how are we doing implementing all the needs that we have in the city of South Fulton? It is our intention to implement that work order system for transportation, for facilities and fleet. The construction of Butner Stonewall Tail Roundabout, I definitely want to ensure that we get that done. We're working really hard with the state for them to provide us the notice to proceed. We're going to complete the resurfacing of Ortiz Plus 2020 projects. And finally, we'd love to let construction the Cotton Road over Deep Creek. Next slide, please. With that, Mr. Mayor and Council, I have completed my presentation. Should you have any questions, please, I'll be glad to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Valenzuela. Chair recognizes Ms. Khalid, followed by Mr. Baker.
Okay, thank you so much. I have three questions. The first, Mr. Valenzuela, that was a lot. Thank you for that presentation. I just want to be clear. I know that Miss Jill Lindsay is watching and several other people on Old National. Do you have all the money that you need in this budget to complete the sidewalks on Old National?
We have on Old National Highway, let me get back to you. Let me go back to your slide. At this point, we have the funding to move forward on completing the right-of-way acquisition of the project.
Okay.
Complete the design, and we're going to be setting ourselves up for the construction letting for 2022. So in 2020,
there won't be any construction on the sidewalks in this fiscal year of 2021. That's not going to happen until 2022. But you have set aside all the money necessary to purchase the right-of-way and do the design for these sidewalks that will start being built at the end of 2021.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. The funding for the Morning Creek Bridge on Bethsaida,
Yes, sir. We were able to leverage some savings for the city of South Fulton on T-Splash projects. We had 3 T-Splash projects that Georgia DOT is taking over. We have Pitsaida over Morning Creek that have T-Splash projects, but Georgia DOT is doing it. We most likely pay for the right-of-way acquisition, which will be minimum comparing with what we budgeted for the project. Then you have Campbellton or 92 at Jones Road. We will provide some funds, but we will not be spending the entire cost of the project. And the third project will be Roosevelt Highway at Washington Road. We will not be paying all the amount of money that was on T-Plus. So the project being funded by Georgia DOT. Should Georgia DOT requires from us support on rights-of-way acquisition, I believe we're covered for that.
Okay. My second question is, we don't have a single street sweeper in the city of South Fulton. I don't know. It sounds like this is not in the budget for this year, but I am just wondering, because we have talked about, raising millage rates and things like that. I know that street sweeping is something that a lot of our residents have wanted to see in our commercial areas like Old National or Cascade or Roosevelt Highway. What is your advice on whether we should, in future budgets, or if we have the money, would it be more advisable to rent that from Jacobs or to actually purchase and maintain our own street sweeper?
Also, street sweeping equipment. When I was at Fulton with Mr. Mayor, you were there when we purchased one street sweeper. Unfortunately, we were not able to bring it to the city. At that time, we paid about $185,000 in change for the street sweeping, and we were able to provide that with staff from the county. But you need 2 drivers because you don't want to have only 1 driver. Then you need somebody to follow that behind the street sweeper so they can dump what they sweep, because those machines, they fill up very fast. So you will require the equipment, additional stuff, and so on. But what happened is that you have to offset the cost that we have with our current contract under Jacobs. Jacobs is providing only twice a year, and there's a cost associated under the maintenance funding that we have. So
I got it. So
I think it will be a further discussion.
I got it.
Mr. Lee, before you get off that subject, I just want to tell you too that we did have a street sweeper. One of the biggest costs, and you may want to think about that because you used the word rental. One of the biggest costs we had on it was maintenance. I mean, it stayed broke down until we finally sold the thing because the maintenance was too high. So you mentioned rental. I may think that'd be a viable option if we did it.
Thank you. Thank you. That was my question. So you were saying it was $185 to purchase, but that didn't include the maintenance costs on it.
Right, and that was about, it's now about 5 years, I think, since that transaction occurred.
Right. I would love to just see some numbers on that, on renting versus owning versus leasing or whatever, whether we do it through Jacobs or somewhere else, because I know that's something that people care a lot about. And then my last question is, there are residents on Camp Valley that have asked for streetlights. When we originally did our streetlight study, I don't know if that was included, but it brings up a question, both around lights and sewer. And I know that you don't specifically manage sewer, but Camp Valley borders Clayton County.
That's correct.
So when we're doing improvement projects in our municipality that are contiguous to other counties, what is the cost sharing or agreement? Like if we were to put lights on Camp Valley Road, could we work with Clayton County to pay for half of those lights? Would we put them all on our side of the street? How does that work?
Typically, we follow the street lighting ordinance that we have at the city. And then we work with the power companies, and we will pay anything that falls within our jurisdiction. If we share side street by side street, then we'll go and contract it only for one side of the street. But in order to make a doable project, we'll have to discuss with Clayton County and see if they are willing to get into an IGA for street lighting. We definitely can get that motion and approach them and get back with you on what their thoughts are. And we would like to see from where to where locations, existing locations, the needs and other details that has to be done before we can come up with an estimated cost.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Thank you. We now have Mr. Baker, followed by Councilmember Willis.
Yes, sir.
I'm in the queue too, Mr. Mayor.
I got you. I see you. I see you, Ms. Gilliard. Ms. Willis?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Hello, Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Baker is first.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry, Mr. Willis. Councilmember Baker's first. Go ahead, Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of things. First, Mr. Valenzuela, I want to tell you thank you and congratulate you as well as Jacobs on the success in my district in particular with the C-Click Fix app. It's important for me to let you know when people in my district actually are happy about something. They've been amazed at the response time and the turnaround time for the projects that they report to you guys. So thank you for that, as well as what's been going on Connell Road and the repavement of the streets. So I have to get those thank yous out of the way because they really mean a lot to the people in my district. Also, I just have a couple of questions on timelines. I know that there were funds allocated towards a bridge near Oakley Township. I believe that there was a situation where we probably were eligible for supplemental funds to complete that project possibly sooner. Can you advise regarding that, if that's still going on right now?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it's always means to us and the Jacobs team to acknowledge that we do everything we can to provide the services in a timely manner and excel our services every day better than what we've done yesterday. With regards to the Oakley Township, it is a project being funded by the state. Georgia DOT.
Excuse me. Will you all please mute your... We're hearing background. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Valenzuela. Mr. Valenzuela. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Every time that you use state funds or federal funds, the issue is that the implementation, the design, the approval that project goes through, it's much larger. But I will definitely get back with you, Mr. Baker, with the exact dates and so on on the status of Oakley Township Bridge. But it is funded, it is under design. I just need to get to you more details on this.
Okay, next would be the possible timeline for Crawford Court repavement. I appreciate you guys coming out with me a couple of times with those residents. But I know that the funds were available for this year during the budget amendment, and I was just wondering about a timeline for my constituents regarding Crawford Court.
Yes, sir. I have discussed with your constituents, with many of them, and I have assured them that it's going to be completed before the end of the summer. We're almost at the end of our projects, and it is scheduled to be done. And because the rainy situation that we have, every schedule that's been requested and updated from our contractor sometimes goes away, because if it rains 2 or 3 times a week, then can't do any resurfacing. But in a formal week, sometimes we'll work on a Saturdays also to catch up with stuff. But Crawford Court will be resurfaced this year before the end of the summer.
Thank you. That's excellent. It's amazing to hear that they've been waiting a long time. So, lastly, is the point of contention that I've had for 3 years now. The first year you were with the county. The past 2 years you've been with us. As you mark your timeline of transitioning over to us. This is our third budget year that I've requested information regarding the Old National sidewalks. It's good to hear that funding is in the URA for design. But I have to ask you to give further explanation for the people on Old National regarding this being the same answer that we received 3 years ago, that they were in the design phase, albeit it was in the hands of the county. And over the past 2 years, it's been under our purview. These funds, again, we've sent emails, we provided documentation. These funds were in the budget for from Fulton County, and it was supposed to be their responsibility because it's my understanding that they were federal funds. And if they were federal funds, they were supposed to be used for that project, and the county kept them. So at that point, you were over there. Can you provide any explanation to my constituents regarding why is it still in the design phase 3 years later? I wrote sponsored the legislation for the URA after, like, a whole year and a half after that, and now we're going to funds in the URA just for design when the design was what the county had already started. There's so many people who are demanding these answers. Can you please provide some type of clarity on why are we still paying for one and what's been the 2-year holdup for that?
Councilmember Baker, I can actually chime in on that if you would allow. If that's okay.
Sure, please.
Yeah, what ended up being there, and just to be fully transparent, the county walked away from us and left us holding the bag. Those federally funded projects were in their budget, and they had provided the match for those funds. We did not get an answer on whether they were actually in year one. While we were doing the transition, we were fully under the impression that those projects would continue to be managed by the county. Once they transitioned over, and I would say our city attorney did some stellar work in assisting us in negotiating and putting some pressure on to assist them in delivering some of those to keep their commitment. But ultimately, when the city took over transportation, they decided not to fund those projects, and that is the reason why the money had to be allocated by the city. I think, to the council's credit, you have collectively decided that all of those federal projects are, meaningful to our citizens and need to be completed. But when they walked away from those projects, we had to do everything starting over, from rebidding the projects, accepting their contracts, and all of that. And I don't think that Mr. Valenzuela mentioned it, but it is good to have on record that the reason we have all of these different infrastructure problems is because there was, they had been ignored until there was a city of South Fulton. So you have actually collectively as a council picked up where Fulton County left off quite a long time ago, which is why our infrastructure needs are so great. It's not because you have not made the investments. I think you've seen that the city has made about $30 million in infrastructure investments, cleaning up a mess that existed for about the last almost 10 years. And so this is one of those examples where things got started under the county, but then they basically took away that funding commitment and left the city to pick up the pieces. Mr. Valenzuela, feel free to chime in on top of that.
Yes, sir, you stand correct. And to just add a few things that Mr. Donald indicated is that all projects that have federal funded cease operations in October of 2018. Since then, the city was not LAP certified. The city didn't have contracts. The city didn't have consultants, either anything that we couldn't done. So the first step was to move very quickly and be LAP certified. Then in the meantime, we started working with legal and get those contracts back on board. However, at the end of the day, we got the results, but we didn't get the funding. We got the project back for us to continue managing, but without funding. So subsequently, we went project by project, established all the projects, and agreeing to cost to resume design. So that's what is called the piggyback agreement. The cost to resume design of those projects. We're able to fund that piggyback agreement for all national highway with your URA funds. We will be able to cost to outsource to pay the right-of-way acquisition with federal funds. And then upon completing those things and certifying the rights-of-way acquisition, we hope that for 2022, the project can be led to construction. So I'm not mentioning all the details that we have to go in order to let that project to construction. But right now, the project is programmed for 2022, and it is budget constrained, and there's nothing we can do to move funding earlier or so on. So it's under 2022, and our part is to be due diligent to ensure that we meet those milestones and we can let that project on that time.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'll never ask about it again publicly. I appreciate it, and I have something to report back, and that's a point of contention for a lot of people on Old National and District 7 in general. But I will have to discuss it further with my colleagues in executive session, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor. But lastly, I know Councilman Khalid mentioned something regarding the lights and the possibility of an IGA with nearby cities. There's a light at Fairburn where we're losing lives that's connected to the city of South Fulton. And I would like to speak with you offline on the possibility of doing something about it, because it's that gray area where the people don't know if they're in Fairburn or the city of South Fulton. So I receive a lot of correspondence about it. We just had a really bad accident last week there. And if there's something that we can do collectively, even if it means for us to work together closely with neighboring cities to bring just the residents in that area in general, a resolve, I would love to be a part of that. And I would love for you to give me further guidance on that offline. And
can I give you a comment on this, on the street lights for the council?
Sure.
The master plan, the street lighting master plan that we just approved, it will last 12 months. We will have public meetings. We will have input from every council areas, and the end product is to come up with a plan that will serve to all the city of South Fulton streetlights. That will be the main opportunity to ensure that we don't miss the needed areas. And we're gonna make sure that we also looking to enter into IGAs with other municipalities that are next to us.
Okay, Mr. Baker.
No, in my last 12 seconds, I just wanted to know about the light at 138 and Oakley Industrial. Where are we regarding the progress? I know last time they were supposed to be giving us an update regarding this traffic study.
Okay, Jonesboro Road at Oakley Industrial Boulevard. You're talking now at Signal.
Yes, a double turning light.
Right.
People wanted, yes, sir, the Signal.
The state didn't get back with us. The state doesn't think that the intersection warrants for a new signal, but we haven't lost that battle with them. I will continue working with the state that, it is a constant request. And let me get back with you and see how much more pressure we can make to the state.
Yeah,
I'll provide you with shared information from Union City regarding all of the traffic accidents on a daily basis to assist you with that. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Baker. The chair recognizes Ms. Willis and then Ms. Gunn.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Valenzuelas, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything about the roundabout that's supposed to go on Jones Road and Union Road. Where are we with those? I know the one on Jones Road is a joint project with GDOT.
You're talking about the Campbellton Road, Fairview Road at Jones Road.
Yes.
Yes, that project is with the state. The state is gonna took over the staff. We're gonna be entering into an IGA with the state. And it was the funding needs that the state will require from us. It will come from TS Plus, but the state has taken the lead on that. But I will definitely get back with you on more details on the status of the project.
Okay, also, the road, Mason Road, we share that road with Union City. Are there any funding or conversations with resurfacing that road? The road that runs in front of the Coca-Cola sales center?
No, at this point, I'm not aware of any resurfacing on Mason Road, but I can tell you something that any of those roads, as we see that are in such need, the next TS Plus, if it's the desire of the cities, is coming up. In 2020-21, I was informed that Fulton will be having additional meetings coming in, and the earlier approach to vote for a second roundabout on TS Plus will be, if I'm not mistaken, on November 2021. Because our TS Plus will end on March 2022. So
Okay.
we will have, I think ideally will be anything that we need that was not part of the first TS Plus that we start looking into position ourselves for the future TS Plus.
Okay, and what about the intersection on Mason Road? You did upgrade it to a four-way stop, but the stop signs that are erected there are not useful. So we need more of a, we need more lighting. We need something, I don't know, but the stop signs, you have gotten several complaints about that. Are we looking to do anything in this budget year to deal with that intersection?
Yes, ma'am. I think we have different approaches. It's in the works. I haven't been able to communicate back to you because I don't have a definite answer, but the whole idea is to mitigate that four-way intersection where trucks and others are hitting that constantly, and we're constantly have to repair, but we're having other ways on how to avoid those things. But I'm gonna resolve this year, yes.
Okay, the other thing is there were other roundabouts that the community has been waiting on, since before we became a city. Those are Union Road, Fairman Road roundabouts. I know you have in the Button Road roundabout, I saw that's in phase 3, correct?
The
Button and Stonewall Tail roundabout?
Yeah, that's the Button and Stonewall Tail. We're just pending the notice to proceed from Georgia DOT. And then as soon as they provide that notice to proceed and provide us a project frame agreement, we will let that project to construction. We already bid the project out. We already received a bidder, a lowest bidder. We cannot move until GDOT provides us the notice to proceed.
So what I would like to see, Mr. Valenzuela, is more project timelines regarding these projects in our city.
Yes, ma'am. That it's forthcoming to you. Now that we have a right-of-way agreement signed for somebody to start acquiring the rights of acquisition, we have all the piggyback agreements in place, and a forecasted baseline schedule will be coming to you. And I actually discussed with consultants this morning that as we're getting closer to construction lettings, we're going to be letting 2-3 projects at once instead of letting single projects. So that way we possibly get better dollars for those big projects that we have on the road. It will be forthcoming to you.
Okay, lastly, I want to discuss, is there anything in the budget to address the illegal dumping that's happening abundantly throughout our city? It's getting ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know, what service agreement regarding that area we have with Jacobs, but we got to do something. I know there were cameras that were supposed to be placed throughout the city. I don't see where that's helping, and the illegal dumping is getting worse. And so that's a public works and environmental concern. And we really need to figure out a way how to address that, and whether investment we need to put towards that, but something has to be done.
Yes, ma'am. It is an issue that illegal dumping, we're constantly working with CDRA. I'm constantly working with Jacobs. And at this point, I have a demo project with the new type of cameras that might provide what you're looking for. And as soon as this demo project is done, we should be able to advise better on how we can proceed with CDRA and Jacobs.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Mills?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
okay.
Ms. Gomes, go ahead.
What happened to me, Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Gilliard, you're after Ms. Gomes.
That's not what you said.
So I just wanted to ask again, I know that there's some projects, especially hopefully the Butner Road widening and paving, but quick question, if we're going through eminent domain or trying to get some land acquisition, especially possibly with the situation with the horse farm, do we need to have money budgeted for that? Is that in a different funding source?
Right now, projects that we might have issues with eminent domain, I think we have a good consultant that's going to be managing the rights of acquisition. They have attorneys, they have other people. We're going to do everything we can to avoid eminent domain. And we're going to do everything we can to leverage the Teach Plus funds that we have for those projects. If we go into eminent domain, the project extends longer, it costs more money it will cost more money to the city. And we're going to do everything that we can to negotiate and avoid eminent domain unless there's no whatsoever agreement with property owners.
Okay, and just from my understanding, wasn't that some of the issues that we were facing with moving forward with the bridge repair on Butner Road?
The problem of the short answer to all those projects is that the city didn't have contracts. We finalized doing all the piggyback agreements. We have a right-of-way consultant that was going to be handling all the rights of acquisition. Now we got the tools that we can move forward and advise in more detail what the issue may be. But Butner at over Camp Creek, that project and the intersection is one of the priorities. It isn't final design, but we have to go into rights of acquisition. And with this team, we'll figure out what might be the issues. Unfortunately, residents, once they know that we got the funding in place, it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and likely this project will be, I guess you all say, let in 2021?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very optimistic that that will be the case.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now Ms. Gilliard, followed by Mrs. Rao, and to end the conversation with Mr. Reeves. Ms. Gilliard, go right ahead.
Councilman Khalid talked about it a while back about working in conjunction with another city. But in my district, it hampers development in certain areas where there is no sewer. In fact, the Chat Hills project now is projected in the middle of a master plan, but the projection for being able to really do anything with the project is based on sewer, and that might take 20 years according to Fulton County. That's what we were told. So I went to Fulton County and I asked Mr. Anderson about sewer capability for the area, and he referred me to Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark said they're working on a sewer plant, but in the meantime, and maybe people do not know, that the Big Creek plant in North Fulton is being expanded, and we're paying for it. When I say we, I mean all of Fulton County is paying for it. And the cost increased a little bit this year. Not much, but it did increase. And the only thing in the current plan is a few enhancements to sewer capability for the city of South Fulton. So I thought that was interesting, and it was not encouraging, and it is a problem. So that was number one. Number two, Hall Road. Last year during the budget meetings, I brought up the fact that that the road really needs to be paved, and I know that costs a lot of money. And in the meantime, you know, it receives a treatment because of the dust during the year. And even though the schools are closed, it is really now a way for people to take a shortcut. So there's always still going to be costs. But in the current budget, there is $100,000 budgeted for design. So I would like to know, what is the outcome of the plan, the design plan for it? That's number one. And number two, I saw in the budget proposal that there is $200,000 budgeted for it for the current year. So I don't know if 100 wasn't enough and why it would be 300. So that's my second thing. And then lastly, you know, lights as well. So the lights on Ridge and 92 were supposed to happen. It hasn't happened. So I'd like an update on that so that I can be able to answer the questions about sewer, lights, and Hall Road. If you have any update whatsoever about sewer, anything additional to what I just mentioned, it would really be helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Let me start with the sewer. Fulton County is currently doing a sewer study expansion for South Fulton. They are on the final stages, and I believe that in the next 4 to 6 weeks, they're going to provide the recommendations. I have requested from them to provide an executive summary for the city of South Fulton so that we can see what is that study providing for the city of South Fulton and the other cities as well, because they haven't done just for the city. There's the Camp Creek expansion, there's new sewer lines coming in, and so on. I also requested from them that we needed to have, before their approval, a public meeting so that the community is aware of and have the opportunity to comment on the plan.
Mm.
With regards to Hall Road, we requested $300,000 last year. We received $100,000. The $100,000 is still on the books. We're going to request to encumber those funds so we can protect that for Hall Road. We are negotiating with 3 consultants to get the best results, the best design for Hall Road. As mentioned before, Hall Road is just not paving. You have different constraints that we must address those things. I will hate to throw asphalt right there and then in 5 years say, is this what you've done, Mr. Valenzuela? I want to provide to you the best road like we've done it before on South Fulton. I have done some dirt roads in the past that they're not in need to be repaired at this point. So that's my intention. We are in need of geotechnical. We are in need on tying into existing conditions, tying into the school, tying into Rich Road, and so on. But the additional funding, it will be to secure that we can move with the proper design for Hall Road, which will also allow us to meet with the community and see where we can go from there. With regards to lights, the Rich Road, we have done negotiations with Greystone and the state. Greystone has provided a quote. I have authorized that to be converted from private sector into Greystone. Greystone has requested the permit from Georgia DOT because it's state route. As soon as GDOT approves that, we will be seeing a new updated lights, and the lights should be on. If they are not on, will be on Greystone to repair. Right now, they don't repair because they haven't built that system. So every time that we have issues, we have to hire another electrician that costs more money to us. And going forward, you all will have an opportunity to raise your comments in anything related to street lighting. When we started, we have about 9,000 lights throughout the city. Now we have almost over 10,000 street lights throughout the city. So we have implemented throughout the city a good number of lights. But I think we need to go into a different direction with a different approach. And that's what the master street light will provide us the results. You will be part of that. We'll have steering committees throughout the city. We'll meet with the community. And my goal is to provide you next year. This is the plan of action. This is phase 1, phase 2, and so on.
Okay, and my last comment, and I was really glad that you mentioned it in terms of Hall Road, and it intersects with Jones Road, and
Yes,
sections of it that's unpaved as well.
That's correct.
Also, you mentioned the schools, and we do know that parts of both roads are in Union City. So is there an opportunity to partner with those two entities to help them fund whatever it is that we're going to do with those two roads, since they all have a piece of it? And one thing that I have noticed is that and I noticed when I go shopping up there and turn off of Hall Road onto 92, and now I'm beginning to see trucks using what was supposed to be the car entrance on Hall Road. So that is another type of concern, but yet and still the other two entities need to partner with us to fund the cost of doing those streets.
Absolutely, ma'am. On Hall Road, the part that we'll be designing is entirely in the city of South Fulton. The other section, it is shared with Union City.
Right.
And when it comes with Jones Road, as soon as Hall Road is agreed, and we have a better understanding how we can do, we're going to use the same method going to Jones Road.
Okay.
So we'll be ahead of the game for Jones Road, but we have to start making pressure on the state to get the roundabout at Campbellton and Jones Road. But we have to put both of them together. So if I design that, pave that, will be a major issue at that intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Dr. Ryan, followed by Mr. Reeves, and then I'll make a comment and we'll get off.
Thank you. Couple follow-up questions. Mr. Valenzuela, can you give an update on where we are with Danforth Road? I know the city council had authorized eminent domain, and maybe, as you mentioned in the previous comments, you've taken another route. I don't know. Would like to get a status update on that, as well as Cascade Road. And I know it may be impacted. It was in the same category, I believe, as the old national sidewalks. But can you speak to those two, as well as any traffic calming that you're considering for Enon Road? We've had a number of accidents in that area.
Yes, ma'am. Let me put together Danforth Road and Enon Road, because they were designed by the same consultant.
Okay.
This consultant firm bailed out on us. They didn't want to do no design. They didn't want to do anything with City of South Fulton. So, but we took a different approach. Those are sidewalks. So we're going to let the project as it is, and we're going to fix the project as we're moving forward through a construction agreement that will save more money to the city. If we have issues, we'll fix it right there. We'll continue with construction. So we're going to contract both of them for construction engineering services, and we'll go for that. The major obstacle of those two roads are the combination issues that we have on Danforth and Enon Road. While we have resolved the design and possible construction, we still have to resolve those 7 parcels that we have. So the approach with the new team, in lieu of what Fulton County was doing, is we'll go back to the table with those 7 residents and provide them a different plan of action, and hopefully avoid combination As soon as that's resolved, our intention is to move on with both projects to lay into construction. With regards to Cascade Road, culvert replacement, as you know, we didn't have the funding in place. We got the funding in place. We completed the piggyback agreements. We completed the design. We completed the rights of acquisition. We pay wetlands points needed on the project. It is the Army Corps of Engineers. It is EPD requesting different things. There are different permits that we must comply with those. Some of them we have received just recently. So, and I don't want to jeopardize the project and then go into construction and we're going to be shut down. But
clarification, I'm sorry, Mr. Valenzuela. I was talking about the sidewalks for Cascade. I feel comfortable where I am on the culvert.
So you'll be talking about additional sidewalks on Cascade Road, or are you talking?
I thought that they had additional, and clarify me, I thought there were additional money earmarked for sidewalks on Cascade Road, not just by the bridge.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, on the T-Splash, under Tier 3, I believe that's when we consider funding for Cascade Road sidewalks. That will be the continuation of the existing sidewalks to FIB. But I will be, we got to be realistic that the third tier on T-Splash was when you have collected 15% of taxes about the 100%. So the first tier was up to 85% tax collection. The second tier at 100%, and the third tier at 115%. So we got to be realistic. We're not going to reach the 100%.
Okay.
But the good thing is that going forward, if we have the opportunity to go into a second T-Splash, perhaps some of those projects that we're requesting should be the first project that we're going to let.
Yeah, I think. Thank you. I do think we have to begin to have those conversations about the next round of T-Splash, because we have inherited some very old infrastructure that needs attention. I know Councilwoman Gilliard talks about it all the time, and I'm in agreement to do the kind of development where we're going to have to make those kind of investments. So I think the sooner we begin planning for it, the better.
Absolutely right. Then with regards to Inland Road, it is our goal to mitigate speed at that location. I have contacted PD. PD has a state radar agreement with the state. On Inland Road, we have 35, and in a few areas, we have 45 miles posted speed. So far, what I received from PD is about maybe up to 55 miles per hour on a 35 and a 45 miles per hour. So it is a bigger investment. It is it's not impossible to lower some of those posted speeds on certain roads that we have. But in order to get to that point, I got to work with PD, and we will have to do studies on posted speed and proper speed driving speeds at certain roads that we have, and work with the state and provide. It's pretty much a case to lower posted speed, and for the state and for PD to enter into a new state radar permit.
Okay.
Ms. Rao?
I think that pretty much covers it. You cover, yeah, that'll suffice. So we, just to verify though, we have to start over on the parcel. Well, let me ask you, what do you think is a timeline for Danforth, being that you have to go back to those property owners?
I have a very aggressive schedule. As soon as my contract is executed, the next day they get a notice to proceed, and I have timelines for each project. I think Cascade, I think Danforth, I believe we have 8 weeks, and Inland Road 8 weeks. But we should know, and then after the notice of proceeding is issued to the vendor, we should know within 2 weeks what is the mode of negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Okay. Chair recognizes Mr. Reeves, and then I will close it out with a few comments. Mr. Reeves, go ahead.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Valenzuela, great presentation. Good job.
thank you, sir.
One thing concerning the Fairwood community about street lights in the community. Can you clarify for the people the amount of lights budgeted to be installed within Fairwood? It was stated to me by the residents there was 15, however, only 8 were installed. What happened to the other 7 lights? That's number 1. And then number 2, is there a timeline to get them installed?
On Fairwood, the additional details, I would like to, if I have it in front of me, but let me get back with you on the pending 7 lights that are missing. But we have worked with the proper power company, and the issue that we get those installation of lights is when we have existing poles. So we're able to hang those lights and put it back to work. In certain areas where we don't have existing poles and there's not the proper infrastructure for additional lights, it is very costly, and might be the case on Fairwood Road, but nevertheless, on the upcoming master street lighting, that will be also a case where we'll have new existing lights, new infrastructure requirements, and others. I will be part of that.
Okay, I was speaking of the ones that was inside of the community, like on Veneer, Benchmark, within the interior of the neighborhood.
I will double check exactly for you, and I'm almost sure that because the lack of infrastructure at those locations, we couldn't install it. But I will give you a more detailed explanation on the reason why.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Valenzuela, thank you so much, Mr. Reeves. Couple of questions. I want to piggyback on District 1 with Dr. Rao. The extension of the Danford Road project, is this supposed to parallel what Atlanta did? Am I right about that?
Yes, sir. We will pick up from where they left, and we'll end up on Cascade Road.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit about sewer. You know, I've often said that development follows the sewer, and you'll find that anywhere you go. As we talk about developing in South Fulton, and it should be no surprise to a place like Chattahoochee Hills, that, and we start talking about the issue of building nodes. Nodes don't mean anything if you don't have the sewer that goes to the node. And Mr. Valenzuela, there's only a couple of reasons how we can get more sewer. Am I correct?
Yes,
one has to do with the actual project itself, and one has to be the expenditure of funds from the city, and the other one has to be actually from another government entity. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Through my conversations with Fulton County, I have asked the same questions that you're asking me. I was told in a presentation, of course, I couldn't see more detail, but the executive summary should be forthcoming to you once they finish their report. They're providing extensions of new sewer lines throughout South Fulton. And I asked if there will be any capital improvements or investment from the city of South Fulton. I was told that the city will not have to bear additional costs.
Well, I want to say that, you know, if you remember Walden Park,
yes,
years ago, the county expended the money to bring sewer to Walden Park, which over the years has probably been a good idea because of the over 800 houses over there and the property taxes that go along with it. So I'm just saying that even with a potential construction deal, You have to consider too, how much is the landowner going to contribute to attaching to the sewers. So I'm just saying this sewer ain't not a new problem, especially where we live in District 4. We don't have the sewer capacity, and we got to take that seriously if we want to have an economic development. The last thing I want to tell you is, another thing I want to tell you is, we talked a lot about roundabouts today, and I think roundabouts are a good thing, and I think they're very good traffic calming devices. My concern is, but I think a roundabout can hold an aesthetic value to a community. I go by that roundabout route on Miss Gill probably does too, on Ridge Road that we have, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
It is weeds, it's whatever. I don't know who's responsible, but it's not a good aesthetic value to a community. And as we look into arts and things of that nature, we may want to consider using available land in a roundabout to help create a better image for our communities. So I don't want a roundabout that just has a bunch of weeds. You put it up today, and 2 months later you got a bunch of weeds, and everybody's asking, well, who's supposed to water it? Who's supposed to cut it? So I think you need to put the consideration as you go forward with these roundabouts as to maintenance. All right.
You're absolutely right on those things. As the state designed this project with landscaping, and then I'm requesting to enhance that roundabout as well as cascade medians to take it at a different level by doing a design, implementation, and maintenance of those. But in future roundabouts, the majority of those have some concrete and other amenities, and we don't have much of landscape in the areas. Yes.
I think all of us who are getting roundabouts or in your district, I think it should be a part of what you'd like to see aesthetically as we bring it in. I don't like those roundabouts with a bunch of concrete in it. I mean, I personally don't like that. I like to see the flowers. I like to see the art or whatever you want to do. But I think we need to take that into consideration as we look at that. Now, let me talk.
Mr. Mayor, please, can I say something about that, Mr. Mayor?
Go right ahead.
I just want to give you an update. It was driving me crazy. And because it was looking so bad, I first went to Public Works and said, look, I'll pay for it out of my budget if it is unfunded, because it's really, really, really not a big deal. It's a big deal if you don't know if you don't know anything about landscaping. But if you know something about landscaping, it really isn't. And so we went back and forth, and finally it went to purchasing. And purchasing got to vendors. And what I know, and Mr. Mayor, from the Lakes at Cedar Grove subdivision on roundabouts that we have that are sustainable. And what I wanted to make sure of was that they were easily maintained, but they were beautiful. So I came up with a design of rocks and dwarf ornamental grasses that are drought tolerant, and you don't need irrigation, and they are beautiful. So there is a design, and we have received 3 quotes, 4 quotes about that roundabout. And so I'm gonna show you what we've received so that you can see and take a look. That's going to happen, and it does not take $150,000 to come up with a design. We have one.
Well, I don't want you to eat up all my time. Let me finish. I appreciate that comment, though. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me couple other things. And one is we talked a lot about cross-jurisdictional things, Mr. Valenzuela. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say this. When we get to the point of cross-generational things, we have to treat people as we want to be treated. We have to collaborate in the name of citizenry as we go forward. I just want to lay that out there because a lot of times your neighbors, we should be about doing the business of working with our neighbors, and when our neighbors are wrong, being able to discuss with our neighbors in a diplomatic and business and civil-like manner, so that when we do jurisdictional things together, we can be all right with it. So I just want to add that. Lastly, illegal dumping. Illegal dumping is off the chain, sir. And I don't know, and not just you, but code enforcement and others. I don't know if we're still going in the garbage and finding information about people and going to those people, but I think it's a chain of things. What you're doing and picking it up, code enforcement, the code board, the magistrate court, they need to be thinking in terms of, if we catch somebody, we want to make sure that this person doesn't do this in our city anymore. And I think we need to be a little bit more harder on how we deal with people who are caught in this manner. So I just want to make sure that that we get that, okay?
Absolutely, sir. And just to give you a little feedback on those two areas that you touched, we're working very closely with Fairburn, with City of Fairburn, with City of Union City. As you know, we've done illegal dumping cleaning on Irvin Road within City of South Fulton and Fairburn, the City of Fairburn. We work with on Hunter Road with Union City and other jurisdictions, and we're always looking at collectively how to do better, how we can provide better services for when we touch different jurisdictions.
All right, let's move on. Ms. Gumbs, I would like to acknowledge you, but I have to move on. Okay? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, sir.
Madam Clerk?
The next presentation is done by me, S. Diane White, the city clerk. It has been my pleasure to have served the city of South Fulton for 1 year and 5 months. It has been an experience that has broadened me professionally, some good and bad, but an experience that I will not regret experiencing. I would like to thank my staff for their commitment and dedication to the city of South Fulton to help it move into the future with innovative systems and technology. My staff consists of the Deputy City Clerk, Mr. Corey Adams, Administrative Coordinator 2, Ms. Audra Talbert Caldwell, Records Administrator Renato Pasquale, and we have a vacant position for Administrative Specialist 1. Our key deliverables and highlights, we would like to say that we have successfully conducted the city's first municipal election this past year. We implemented GovQA, our open records platform that has helped us in tracking open records from time that they come in until they're completed. We are currently working on an online payment for the open records request. We transitioned submissions of ordinances to MuniCode from quarterly to monthly. They were being done quarterly, and so we have upped it and make sure that they are updated on a monthly basis to MuniCode. Our goals is to identify and adopt a records management standards operation procedure, an SOP, identify and adopt a records management ordinance to include adopting the state's retention plan, identify and present the associated costs for digitizing records and cloud storage, identify and present the associated costs for hard storage retention, identify and obtain a city-owned secured paper document vault or warehouse. And in the meantime, identify a third-party vendor for paper document vault, someone like Iron Mountain or State Archive. Our proposed budget, as you can see what we recommended and what was proposed. We've had cuts, rental and equipment is gone over to general services. But our proposed budget is $563,770. And I'm available for any questions.
Ms. Gumbs, are you still in the queue? Then I take you out. Ms. Gumbs? Maybe she tried to speak before. Any questions for the clerk's presentation? Hearing none, that ends our, Madam Clerk, am I correct that ends all our presentation?
No, sir, we have the city manager.
City manager, okay.
So, Mayor and Council, thank you very much for allowing us to officially present the budget to you and provide an overview of the budget. The city treasurer will, on record, read, the actual budget into the record at the next regularly scheduled council meeting. But this is the formal presentation from all of the departments. Today, I'm extremely excited in presenting our budget because I think it has been a mandate from the council, as well as something that, I think in every place I've been is to invest in our employees, whether it be training or, ensuring professional development, but also growth within the city. And so very recently, my executive assistant, Ms. Chris, has completed her project management programming, and she will be sitting for the test. And so while she goes for that certification, she's taking on a greater role in my office. And so she will be presenting the city manager's budget today and providing insight, and I will simply be giving support. And so, I'm sorry, and also she received her MPA as well. And so she is one of those candidates that we want to make sure grows within the city. And so I wanted to make sure that we gave her an opportunity to show you some of the great work that she does and how she helps to lead our department. So Ms. Chris, if you would, and I'm sorry, before I even do that, I would have to say that all of these department heads and all of their staff have contributed in a way under pressure that I don't think anyone could have ever expected. And so I just want to make sure to highlight, the great work that they've done to pull together this budget in, record time with a lot of different work. And so just want to make sure that we acknowledge the work throughout the city, not just those department heads and their immediate staff, but everyone who contributes. And again, want to make sure that we highlighted a member of my team that you don't always get to hear from. And so thankful for her contributions, and Ms. Chris will actually lead this presentation.
Well, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and City Manager. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the City Manager's FY21 proposed budget. As you know, the City Manager's office works hard to carry out the vision of the council, and we look forward to continuing to move the City of South Fulton forward, especially during these unprecedented times. Again, I just want to say thank you. So next slide, please. Before you are the 8 FY21 goals for the City Manager's Office. Number 1 is to launch a partnership with Comcast Machine Q for Smart City Initiatives. This is a 3-phase project, and the components include quality of life automation, public safety improvements, and technology efficiency. Number 2, Atlanta Regional Commission Green Communities Designation and Certification. The city is seeking to become a certified green community, which would require us to ensure that everything we do is green and energy efficient. With that, we are required to onboard a sustainable communities intern via CRC. The intern will serve as our project manager to assist with moving the city forward, especially with these green initiatives. And that position is slated to onboard around the last week of August. The third goal is to launch our ClearPoint strategy to maintain strategic goals. This is an automated tool that will essentially create what some will call a public scorecard for council and also the general public. This will allow them to view how we are implementing the individual strategic goals that are outlined in the city strategic plan. Number 4, implement online appointment scheduling via Calendly. This application will not only allow departments, but council, if you so choose, to have virtual meetings which can be scheduled during normal business hours. It is our goal to have a designated staff member that can be reached in each department in the event someone does not feel comfortable scheduling that meeting online. Currently, implementation is scheduled for late September for a rollout on October 1st. Number 5, explore electronic voting options. While voting in the state of Georgia, especially within Fulton County, has been an issue, the city was approached to pilot different electronic voting options. While voting is not currently under our purview, we are exploring a recommendation to bring forth before council on potential implementation in future elections. Number 6, cities to become a local issuing authority. Council has received information on the quality of a local issuing authority, and the city has officially submitted an application which we believe will make us certified. This certification will allow us to enforce many of the code-related laws council currently has on the books. Number 7, increase receipt of grant funding by 15% more than FY20. We are excited to say that the city has secured a grand total of $4.9 million in grants, with $3.8 million from October 2019 to June 22nd. This includes both federal, state, and private grants. The 15% increase that we're shooting for will equate to an additional $570,000 in funding for FY21. And finally, number 8, expand the OpenGov functions to enhance fiscal transparency to include budget reports and dashboards. The city manager is currently in negotiations with the president of OpenGov because they have offered to provide us with the needed project management support. Next slide, please. FY20 key deliverables and highlights. Again, the city has secured a total of $3.8 million in federal, state, and private grants for FY20, with additional grant applications and awards currently pending. The key grants that we've received include the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, also known as the SAFER grant, in the amount of $2.2 million. Additionally, the city manager's office has led the acquisition of $1.8 million for LMIG and $350,000 committed by GDOT for the bridge and roadway improvements in partnership with the Public Works Department. Submission of the city's application for Community Development Block Grant entitlement status. Successfully launched a Citizen Response Center with a total of 24,069 requests from launch to June 2020, and we are proud to say that we have a 94% resolution rate. This does include about 14,275 calls from launch to June, but we do want to note that there was a surge in calls in March around the onset of COVID-19, and majority of those calls were related to police and how citizens could access services during this time. The city manager's office has an overall total of 3,240 requests, with 1,854 requests from October 2019 to July 2020 via the C-Click Fix application. These requests include calls and application submissions for things such as escalations, citywide requests not necessarily handled by the city of South Fulton, but that require research and a speedy response. We also have received a total of 2,221 requests from council, with 1,473 taking place from October 2019 to July 2020. 95 of those requests were entered directly into C-Click Fix application by a council member. We developed a Gladiator benefit program in response to COVID-19 pandemic, managed administration during the pandemic with no impact on personnel, employment status, or benefits, and launched a variety of transparency initiatives to include GovQA OpenGov and the budget open houses. Next slide, please. Before you is the city manager's proposed FY21 operating budget in the amount of $197,300. As you all have probably seen from the budget deliberation video, not only did the city manager's office take a 15% budget cut during the pandemic, there was an additional $123,028 cut from the FY21 budget. The areas of reduction include administrative, professional, technical, rental of equipment and vehicles, printing, travel, education and training, dues and fees, postage, and operating supplies. Next slide, please. So here is the organizational chart for the city manager's office. It's worth highlighting that the administrative specialist 1 position you see is the city hall front desk position, and the management and policy analyst senior position is the ICMA fellow, which is currently funded. The constituent affairs coordinator position was originally called council liaison. However, the employee within the position has taken on the responsibility of tracking and responding to all constituent affairs. And so the department is recommending a title change in FY21. And with this concludes the city manager's office FY21 proposed budget. And I thank you for your time and opportunity to present the department's budget.
So Mayor, we definitely appreciate and applaud Ms. Chris and all of her hard work. To, you know, I'll be pretty transparent because of the time frame. She actually led in collaboration with the assistant city manager and the programs and performance manager, the overall coordination of the departmental meetings, setting up the framework for which we make decisions, and then ensuring the timely transmission of the budget. So I am extremely thankful for her contributions, as well as that for all of our staff. I think you saw that we've highlighted the deputy directors previously, Ms. Chris, who once she gets her project management certification, I've made a public commitment to ensure that we find an opportunity for her to grow within the city, and we will continue to do that throughout our ranks. I think we're going to highlight some of the public safety activities during today's work session. And so at that time, we will make sure to give you some insights and what our plans are to supplement that. And so while Ms. Chris provided the presentation, I am here and prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
Very good job, Ms. Chris. Very good job. Any questions? I don't see anyone in the queue. Mr. Khalid.
I think you're muted, Mr. Khalid.
Getting my camera started. Thank you so much for the presentation. Congratulations, Ms. Chris, on your NPA, your upcoming PMP, all the letters, you know, get all the letters. I'm very interested in the electronic voting. I am interested in us looking at possibly setting up our own Board of Elections, depending on how this next round of elections goes. But I was very disappointed by our June primaries, so I'm interested in that. I would like to see in upcoming reports, I see that we have this 94% resolution rate in C-Click Fix, but I am seeing personally and hearing from many of my constituents that what they are reporting in C-Click Fix is not getting resolved, and the cases are just being closed. So I don't know if there's anywhere in your reports already that I'm just not seeing a distinction between closed cases and actually resolved cases.
Yes, it's actually in there. And so once a issue is accepted, it does not, they may get a closed piece, but that just means it's accepted. Within 1 day, they get those notes updated, and then we actually don't fully close it out until it's resolved. Now, one thing that you may want to look at is that the city manager's report, which has a 30-day delay, so it's the closeout, that is when those items are considered closed. So we basically close them within 45 days, all issues. And so the time frame from open to close is one of the areas when you look at the dashboard that since we've hit the pandemic has slowed, and it's probably slowed by about 15%. That's a capacity issue, but you know, without increasing capacity or head count, we're kind of limited there. But we are still kind of meeting our, I'm sorry, not meeting, but exceeding our time goals for resolving problems. So similar to the mayor's walk, which we use as our basis, we accept and acknowledge no matter how you within a 3-day period, we post it within the 7 days, and we resolve it within 30. And so what we likely need to do based on this feedback is give a better timeline of project resolution versus just listing that it has been resolved. Because it sounds like the time frame of resolution and our process is the issue. And so if it is, then we can make sure to resolve that.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Lee?
I would like to reserve the balance of my time when we're through with this. I have another question, but I don't want to take us off track, so I'll wait. Is that all right, Mr. Mayor?
You have another 5 minutes once,
Awesome.
Thank you. So, Dr. Rao, you are.
I'm sorry, I didn't have anything.
Okay. Mr. Khalid, you back.
Okay. Are we done with all our department presentations?
Madam Clerk, is this the last?
Yes, that is all of the presentations.
Right. And then your comments now is on the county manager, city manager, right?
Well, it is, and it's also about a presentation that we asked him to bring back. As you know, House Bill 921 has ordered us, perhaps, to create a new legal department. And I was expecting to hear a presentation about the cost of that new department, because that is a part of our 2021 budget, or may be a part of our 2021 budget.
I can comment on that. I think the expectation that the council asked is for me to bring that back, for which we're putting the finishing touches on the high level discussion that I expected to have during the executive session, which I thought we would have during the work session. Right. But in addition to that, when it comes to the funding, to provide clarity, the council asked a pretty frank question, which I can either answer here or within that closed session. And it was, could we provide those services within the budget, or to provide a framework to provide those services within the existing budget. And so that is, we've talked to multiple cities, one of them being Athens, Clark County, which was the most like us budget-wise, and there are some pros and cons to their model. And so I've received that feedback. I actually spoke with Blaine on Friday and Monday, I believe, and have a follow-up with his city attorney for later this week. But I got preliminary feedback for the council, which is likely more appropriate since it does impact personnel to have in closed session.
Okay, so my question is, because we are here talking about the budget, is that number, and I understand we may not go into detail at this moment, but is that number, is that calculated into this $69 million budget that you sent us?
It is. And so again, the direction from the council was simply to identify a model that would be not in excess of the current cost that we provide. And so the draft model, or really I would be providing you overview of the feedback and the draft model, and then depending on which direction you went in, I have some advisement, which again, I believe is most appropriate for closed session if you decide to go in that direction.
And let me caution you all, you're going a little bit far. I think it is appropriate for a closed session. And I would ask that you limit your conversation about that issue.
Right, I mean, if people want to talk about it behind closed doors, that's fine. I just want to make sure that there doesn't need to be any money added to this public budget. Because right now we're talking about the public budget, and there have been conversations about raising the millage rate. So if everything is included in this $69 million, then I'm fine.
Again, the advisement or the guidance and clear directive of the council was to bring back a model that fits within the same exact funding model that you have had to date. And so I am simply following the direction of the council, and we have done that.
Okay, thank you.
And we're not behind closed doors, we have rules. That's what we do and what we should speak up in public and not. There are a lot of things that we do and three major. So we don't really go behind closed doors. We just follow the process as outlined in our charter. Okay, Ms. Willis? Ms. Willis?
Yes, Mayor, I want to just clarify that there's not talks about raising the millage rate. We did a public advertisement and we were very clear on why the millage rate needed to be raised and why most cities across the nation are raising their millage rate. We all have been severely impacted by COVID. And so to maintain a level of service that our constituents have want us to maintain, it is necessary to do that. And in that vein, I would like to move that we adjourn this meeting.
There a second?
I second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Rao, Councilmember Gomes,
Yes.
Councilmember Willis,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliard, Councilmember Gilliard, Councilmember Reeves,
Aye.
Councilmember Khalid,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker, Councilmember Baker. Motion passes.
Okay, I'll see everyone at 4 o'clock. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
Correct. 4
Okay.
o'clock work session.
This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Goodbye.